Good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Medhurst. I'm here with two very special guests who are joining me from Emerson College in the United States, and they've been very busy. Their names are Owen Buxton and Sadia Abu Hussein. They're students and organizers at Emerson College, and they were present during this giant assault by police on April 25th. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Sadia. I'm a senior and organizer with SJP at Emerson College. Owen.
I'm Owen. Uh, I'm also a senior and an organizer with SJP at Emerson.
Could you guys tell me how you first came to be involved in pro-Palestine protests? Like, what motivated you? What prompted you to just go ahead and become involved with direct action?
I joined early this semester because I was I was looking for a place where people were also angry about this after going to school last semester where no one talked about it, and it drove me crazy.
Mm.
Um, I needed a place to put into action things that I was thinking about.
Yeah, and I got involved with I was one of the first kind of group of people who in October of last semester got together, and it really did just start as everybody who was feeling the same anger and responsibility and need to like take action and understand the role that we were playing as Americans, but then as American students on top of that. um yeah.
Well, it's very brave of you guys, and you might have seen a viral video I did last week where I was basically just praising all of you. I did it in English and French because this has become a worldwide movement. What are your thoughts when you see people in other countries, students in other countries, participating in this, taking up the mantle and just sort of copying or mimicking, in a good sense, of course, what you guys are doing? How does that make you feel?
It gives me a great sense of hope. I just saw that there's the first ever faculty encampment that was just started. So that's huge. Um, it just makes me feel like this is a movement that is just beginning and it's not stopping. And I think as we go into the summer, I think it'll be very exciting to see what happens.
Yeah, I think for myself, like I think it's really important for us to remember that everything that the student movement in America has become is a direct result of, the things that we have, learned and seen from Palestine and from Palestinian people who have been engaging in the type of, in this type of protest and resistance beyond this type of protest and resistance for decades. And, even beyond that, a lot of our organizers, myself, I'm Egyptian. And that's a big reason why this my presence in this movement and the work that I've been doing at Emerson was it's not really optional, and it's not really a choice. But and beyond that, like so many of our organizers are Black and Brown people, people of color from different communities and different histories that you know really can recognize a moment of how important it is for like solidarity and unity, especially in intense moments of oppression and repression.
There's also, I've seen there have been lots of Jewish students protesting, taking part in the pro-Palestine movement, and this is it's funny because the media call the movement anti-Semitic, but ironically, as I just pointed out, you have lots of Jews who are standing right there with you. Um, Tell us about that and how they feel that they've been harassed by the police and for just expressing anti-Israel or pro-Palestine beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the role that Jewish students, but also just Jewish organizers and activists throughout history have played in, any anti-Zionist movements is like super pertinent to calling out sort of like the inherent hypocrisy of like the liberal and Zionist structures that, are everywhere and that were, forced to like be a part of. And I think that so much of what I realized in the encampment itself is that, like, every person was there. Every type of person that you possibly could think of, you could find at the that you could find at the encampment, because the community was just so broad. And we just did exactly what was instinctual for us to do during the encampment, and that was share prayer, share food, share education, share community with each other. And I think that the way that the encampment itself, probably some of the most beautiful time that I have ever spent at Emerson. And the things that ruined it most were the presence of police, the intimidation from police, the intimidation from administration. And that's what becomes agitational, intimidation from counter protesters. And even then, we were in a spot where the entire city was walking through. Anyone from the whole city of Boston could walk through the encampment at pretty much any time. And yeah, I think that the way that we were able to kind of really sustain, like, the community, the joy, the education, the solidarity for Palestine, the focus on Gaza is, like, exactly what we are trying to call out, because they're making it seem like it's impossible to exist that way. It's impossible for all of us to come together in community, fight for the same thing, and take care of each other while we do so. But it's not impossible at all. It's actually what most of us are, like, drawn to do.
Yeah, and I myself am partially Jewish ethnically, and it makes me, it upsets me to think that there are students at Emerson or anywhere in the country who are feeling unsafe because of our encampments. But anti-Zionism does not mean anti-Semitism. To me, it means anti-genocide and anti-occupation. And I think if anybody who walked through our encampment could see everything on the walls that we painted or chalked, it was a community about love and about education first and foremost. And I think this narrative of the student movements being painted as anti-Semitic is just a reason to get them to stop, I think, and to turn public opinion.
And really quickly, I mean, like, something that I heard a lot from, the Jewish students and the Jewish community members that were there and present at the encampment is that, there was no other place that they saw that they needed to be, that, like, everything that we were there to do, demand divestment, to demand, a ceasefire and an end to, the genocide, to demand an end to the occupation, everything that we were there to do, and demand was absolutely everything that people and the Jewish community members who were there felt that they needed to be fighting for.
Yeah, I'm very happy hearing all of this, because I was making the point that these are the largest student protests since the Vietnam War, and specifically anti-war student protests. And you guys have not only captured that feeling of opposing the system, but you've also captured all the good things of that movement, as you were pointing out, some very lovely behavior, just really a sense of community. And I really appreciate that you took the time to underscore that. I hate to jump to now a more negative aspect of it, but could you guys perhaps tell me about that night, specifically April 25th, where they just charged at you? I mean, Owen, you specifically, I wanted to ask you the second you joined, how are you doing? Are you feeling better? But I thought I'd leave it to now, so you can just, just say whatever you want and give you the floor. You are doing better, I hope. And just tell us what happened that night. What happened to you guys? How are you feeling? How are you feeling afterwards?
Yeah, thank you. I'm feeling much better. I've recovered. Physically I've recovered. The early morning of the 25th, I think it was around 2 a.m. We'd been on a high alert all night, police presence. But we were locked arms, and they came in with riot gear. There were hundreds of them. They came at us from both sides, and they just tore through us. They definitely targeted our organizers. Um, I was I was brutalized pretty hard. They um, they tackled me to the ground almost immediately, threw me into a statue. A bunch of them fell on top of me. One of them hit me with a baton in the back. Then they pressed me onto the ground, the brick ground, and slammed my head into the ground. And I had a big bruise on this side of my face. And they kept screaming at me, "Stop resisting, stop resisting." And I could not resist if I wanted to, because there were seven grown men, and I'm a skinny guy. Like, it does not take seven cops to take me down. But there were seven cops pressing down on every part of my body into this brick. And then one of them applied pressure to my ear with this thumb, and it just completely shut down my body. It was like some kind of pressure point. I'd never felt anything like it before. And they kept telling me not to resist, but I could not resist. And I felt like I was sinking into the brick, and everything started to go black. And I thought, I'm gonna die. I actually thought I was going to die. And that's not a moment I'll ever forget. Um, but next thing I know, I'm up, I'm walking, I'm dripping blood. I see the blood of my friends all over the brick, and now they're claiming that no students were injured. I look around and I see every one of my friends being brutalized by the police, and they're saying that no students got injured. And, I got put in a cruiser. Uh, at this point, adrenaline had started to wear off a little bit, and I could feel how severely messed up my arm was. They ignored my cries. Um, I got to the precinct and they told me I was exaggerating. Um, Eventually, an EMT did come to try and treat me. I was screaming and crying and bleeding all over the place. And he said, "We could go to the hospital, but then you'll just have to come back here and it'll add probably 7 hours to this process." Um,
Oh, how
and the
lovely.
cops kept saying, sorry, what?
How lovely. I'm being sarcastic.
Oh, yeah, no, not, yeah, exactly. And the cops kept telling us, "Don't worry, you'll be out of here in an hour." So I said, "Okay, fine. I'll suck it up and go to the hospital afterwards." We were in jail for 12 hours from like 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. Um, I didn't receive medical attention. Uh, I was in pain the entire time. Eventually, we got out, and I went right to the hospital. And the doctor said I had a concussion and minor bruises. Didn't break my arm, didn't sprain my arm or anything. It was just a tendon problem. Uh, but the worst part of it was looking in their eyes and seeing their eyes light up as they beat up black and brown students. Like, they were laughing. They were laughing as they beat me. They were laughing. And some of them had shame on their face, and some of them had absolute joy, like they'd been dying for something like this for a while. And that is the image that will stick with me the most, I think.
Yeah. I mean, as an organizer, um, it's really hard to like be in a moment where, like, especially that night, I saw two things happening. I saw one, this imminent threat of the police who, um, is obviously always historically violent and racist and misogynist, and it was just so clear in the way that they were targeting and brutalizing Black women and Black and brown men. And that's information that we had, and it's really hard to ever anticipate exactly how the police will respond or exactly how the police will come in, because like Owen said, the police officers themselves, you could tell in their faces that half of them were just happy to be there, and get a chance to swing their batons, and the other half of them had no idea why they were even there, or if they, you could really tell the moral conflict that was happening like amongst them. But again, as an organizer, I saw two things happening that night. One, we were a group of 13 students at Emerson were arrested in March, Owen and I were part of that group. And during those arrests, when the threat of police became, face to face with all of us, so many less students were ready to stand their ground. So many less students were ready to stick beside each other, to protect each other. And then, less than a month later, almost exactly 1 month later, we were in the encampment after days of building that community. And I looked around and I saw hundreds of people linking arms, ready to defend each other, ready to stand by each other, and ready to face this threat that at the time we had no idea what it would actually look like and what it could actually do to us, and I think like Owen and I, like, we were actually right next to each other in the moment when it happened. And then the way that they were just slinging and throwing and grabbing and pulling and, kneeling and suffocating and strangling and beating and punching, and the things that they were doing to people, somehow Owen and I ended up on opposite ends of the alley. And I think for me, what was the most terrifying thing was just the complete aimlessness. Like, we had two different groups who had confrontations with the police at the front and at the back of the encampment. And the group at the front of the encampment, they were the police warned them about, like, you can leave, like, you should leave now, or arrests are about to start, The end that we were in, there was nothing.
They just charged at you.
All I heard was, you can leave, and 1 second later, people were coming down. People were being pulled down, dragged down, people were being beat, and people were huddling, linking their arms together stronger and just waiting for what would happen. And there was one point where I had, someone had pulled me into like a building, in which, and was the reason why I did not get arrested that day. Someone had pulled me into a building, and we had been locked, the police officers, because they were policing and raiding the alley until far long after the students were there. And when I had walked back out at some point to cross, I had to be monitored. I had, someone had to escort me. And when I looked around, I saw the alley that had just been full of, people smiling and laughing in the face of this, like, such insane, dangerous uncertainty, and, sticking together and linking arms, had turned into this completely destroyed and abandoned and surveilled plot. I just all of a sudden could not even recognize the place that we had spent 4 days sleeping, eating, and learning in. And it was terrifying. It was so terrifying. And what was even more terrifying is that the police, even the administrators and the faculty and the staff who were present that day, who were trying to mitigate the situation, they had no power. They were being screamed at, they were being grabbed, they were being threatened by the police, they were being intimidated by the police the entire time. And that has become one of the biggest things. Is, it's unfortunate to think about the fact that we already know the way that the police function. We already know that the police are not here to protect the people. We've learned that from decades of lessons and from decades of brutality on Black and brown people historically. And in that moment, it just really became at the forefront that the fact that people were seeing this brutality and this, like, absolute horrible functioning of our police be affecting students, rather than Black and brown people, was the only thing that I think that, raised people's ears. The fact that, the students were being confronted with police brutality that Black and brown people have faced for so long, opened a moment to have a conversation that we should have been having and we should be having, for as long as it takes, to make sure that, any attempts for dissent and protest and, for change are not just brutally beat into the ground, in the way that they attempt to, because that's no way. I mean, we already know that won't kill a movement. 75 years of, absolute brutal force and destruction and genocide in Palestine. And here we are in a moment where Palestine's movement has, completely taken over the globe and has strengthened communities that never even imagined being in, a moment or, as close to, a revolution or as close to some real change as we are right now.
That's why they came down on you, I believe. And could I ask you guys, did the university call the police on you? Because that's a pattern we've been seeing across the country where students are finding out, lo and behold, it's not just the regular police on top of it, it's the actual riot police called directly by the university over a bunch of tents, to put it simply. So did the university call the police on you, and what are your suspicions about how the staff are behaving towards you? Because I've seen something promising about the university paying some of the fees or legal fees, but does that make up for what just happened to you guys?
Yeah, I will say something that we emphasized. We had a negotiation meeting with administration a couple days before the encampment was raided. And we made clear to them that, at this point, especially after the first 13 arrests that happened at Emerson, they were promising so much about, we respect people's right to freedom of speech. We respect students' right to protest. We respect da 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 da. And they made that the forefront of their re-imaging, that they are not here to attack anybody's right to protest, and they're just working to make protesting safer on campus. What that really meant was they're increasing policing on campus. They're increasing the militancy of our campus and the vulnerability of Black and brown students and of student organizers and activists. And so again, that inherent contradiction that is just so obvious. But we had, in the meeting that we had with administration, like a couple days before, maybe not even 2 days before the encampment was raided, we had made clear, we had said to the president, to his face, we had said, look, if you're going to stand beside what you say, we're here to tell you that we're not leaving until our demands are met. We're not leaving until there is transparency, until there is divestment, until there is a call for a ceasefire on behalf, from the institution, and until there is an end to the attack on the student organizers and on protesters. And we had said, look, if you're really committing to what you said you're going to commit to about protecting peaceful protests and about protecting the right to freedom of speech, then you will put your body on the line if that's what it comes to. If that's really what your commitment is, then if the police, you have no involvement and you have no control over what the police will do, then you will be there to defend your students with your body if that's really what you mean. And obviously, they were not there. There has been a lot of misconstruing about what the university has done. First of all, absolutely nothing materially that the university can ever make up for what they have put our students through, for what they have put our community through, and through what they have done to participate in the genocide in Gaza. Nothing materially will ever make up for that. And what we've heard is that we know for a fact that we paid for at least over 75% of the bail that happened that day, or of the bail of students that day.
Right.
There might have been a couple of staff who, were authorized to use their school sanctioned cards to bail people out, but over 118 people were arrested, and we were able to find those people and reach those people significantly quicker than the administration could, because that's not what they're built for. And the people who were within the institution trying to do that were the Black and brown employees who were there caring about their students and who wanted to do what they can for them, and who were doing it autonomously on their own accord and because of their own, because of their own moral obligations and solidarity, and because of their love for their students. Emerson's an incredibly small school. The people that we saw brutalized that day, those were our friends, those were our families, those were our community members, those were people whose faces we have seen and re-seen, for so long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Owen, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, can you remind me of the
Well,
question?
I was asking if the university called the police on you, the riot police, and also I was asking if do you have any suspicions about what the school are doing? Because the facade that they're presenting, from my point of view, and what just Sadia outlined, is that they they want to pay for the bail of a couple of students and make it look like they're conceding something, but how are the staff behaving towards you, and are they meeting your demands, basically?
So after the 13 of us were arrested in March, there was a very deliberate hold on where the Emerson police were sent. I know we did a couple of actions, and the administration made it a big deal. Like, hey, we didn't send ECPD. Like, that's great for us. Like, aren't you guys happy? But when it came down to it, ECPD infiltrated the encampment first before any other people did. And after the meeting with the president, he delivered us a letter essentially washing his hands of us and saying it's not up to me, it's up to Michelle Wu, the mayor. So whatever happens, happens. And that absolved him of any responsibility, I suppose. And soon after that, we made a statement on the news to Michelle Wu saying, protect us, don't do this to us. And within an hour, Boston PD and state police were there.
Can I just interrupt briefly? I mean, she said today, the mayor, Michelle Wu, she said that you wanted to be arrested. When I read that, I mean, I was like, what's your reaction to that?
I don't want to be arrested. I especially didn't want to be arrested a second time. That was a disaster scenario. I did not want that to happen. But when it comes down to it in the moment, I will never not put my body on the line for this cause. Never. There's no scenario. I was telling myself, the 13 of us were saying, like, all right, guys, we can't get arrested. Like, everyone else can get arrested. We have all these new allies. The 13 of us, we have to like stay in the back and support. But when it came down to it, I needed to be there. Sadia needed to be there. We needed to be there because anything that could happen to me, anything, I could go to jail 4 more times. Nothing like what is happening to the people in Gaza will ever happen to me. And I can go to sleep at night knowing that I did something, and that's more than a lot of people can say.
And really quickly on the stuff about, who made the call, who, whatever. Like Owen said, there were multiple times after the first time that we were arrested, that we had, a rally or something where, they said that not only did they not send the ECPD to respond and be present there to make it safer, so admitting that, ECPD's presence would make the protests unsafer, but they also said that claimed multiple times that they communicated with the BPD to make sure that the BPD either did not show up or, just kept their distance from the students while they were rallying. And so there were 2 other times where they did have, enough where they collaborated enough with the BPD to, protect their students, whatever that means. And the thing about the location where our encampment was set is that it's very complicated in terms of whose jurisdiction it is. So whenever we're doing something that they don't want us to do, it's Emerson's jurisdiction, and they get to, use the student code of conduct to do whatever they want to us. But, when we, do something that is, when Emerson does not want any more of the backlash and any more of the bad PR for the way that they've been brutalizing and targeting their students and suppressing pro-Palestinian, activism on campus, I think that it was a similar situation to what happened at Columbia, where, the president was collaborating with the mayor to take down the encampment and to try and wash their hands of, some type of responsibility. So at the end of the day, there is no way that Emerson is not complacent, involved, collaborating with, whoever it is that who pushed that final button or made that final call to send in the state police in riot gear to take down and brutalize their students that day. And I also want to emphasize that the ordinance that we were delivered was an anti-homeless ordinance that Michelle Wu's body put in place, and targets homeless people. It targets the setting up of camps on public property. It targets the creation of community, the creation of actual systems of food, of care, of aid. Because that's another thing, we were in that alley and we had, our houseless neighbors who frequent that area staying with us. And it was probably, very quickly it changed. But before the police came in there, it was probably the safest that any houseless people were on or near Emerson's campus, which is directly in downtown Boston, which they have entirely gentrified and they have entirely destroyed for so many of the Black and brown people who have been there for decades. And so again, just emphasizing the fact that the police who came in there to brutalize us that day, they have been brutalizing people for so much longer than that day. And the law that they used to justify that brutalization that day has been brutalizing houseless people for so much longer than that day.
No, that's really scandalous. I mean, honestly, scandalous. It's like a scandal within a scandal. Can I ask you, guys, what do you think of other student protesters who have reached certain deals with the universities and then broken up their encampments? And, looking at the agreements, it's been something like, for example, that the university promises to raise divestment at a board meeting in a few months. Is that something that you guys look down on as an agreement? Would you ever do something like that? Like, what are your thoughts on these deals?
I think most of the concessions that I've seen so far from universities have been to appease the movement and to instead of have us organizing on the streets and show the power we have together, they want us to go into little committees and talk about it for months and months and months until people forget about this, and then it can just go away. Like all the committees that specifically Emerson created in 2020 after the George Floyd protests, those just went away. And that's exactly what they're hoping to do here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the moment we let the system into our movement, we've lost what we're doing. So I think we need to keep going the way we're going. And I think, I mean, like I said to every news reporter when I was interviewed in the encampment, like, I'm not leaving until the demands are met, or I'm dragged out of here by the police. And I was dragged out of there by the police. So now, what do? We've got a whole summer.
Yeah, I think, this is something that what I'm learning at this point, the movement was just, is just such at a height at this current moment. And once, a movement grows and, falls into the hands of the masses, there's really no way as organizers to really get a grip or to try and control or contain anything that is happening, So I'm a couple of things, I'm really empathetic, especially as someone who has been, who has, completely destroyed my academic career in this last year because of everything that I've been doing organizing. And I really understand the amount of pressure and the amount of sacrifice that it takes. So, I mean, what students are doing across campuses, I mean, no one can really understand a campus or a community and its response to whatever better than the people who have been building that movement there. And there's so many reasons why organizers might decide to take that route. And the way that I see it, is that as long as we are continuously in lockstep, and as long as we all know when it is time to say fuck your bureaucracy and fuck your table if you're not going to meet us if you're not even going to sit here and talk to us at it for real. As long as we know when it's time to do that, and when it's time to unite, and when it's time to hit the streets, and it's time to turn all of that into real action, and into real action for Gaza and for the things that we're fighting for, then I mean, again, about the inherent hypocrisy thing, it's just so inherent to all of the structures, especially Emerson. Emerson's a liberal arts institution, and so many higher educations function like this, where they claim to be on, at the precipice of evolution, on the precipice of progress and whatnot, but they actually are structured to suppress progress and revolution and all of those things as they arise, So I mean, I don't think that the reality of, that inherent hypocrisy not eventually being exactly what causes, neoliberalism and every way that it manifests in our societies to cave in on itself, is true. So I think that it's always valuable, as students to maintain pressure on every possible pulse, on every possible side and direction as we can, until our demands are met. But also, like Owen said that day, and in a moment like that, there is really nothing else to do besides stand there and stick beside the people who you need to immediately protect and the people that you need to immediately defend. I mean, just like you said, what did we say to Michelle Wu saying, that we wanted to get arrested? I mean, what I say is that everything that they have done to threaten us has been in the name of, convincing us that our stance against genocide and that our stance against, the complete destruction of Gaza's universities, of Gaza's society, and the, systemic starvation and brutalization and displacement of Palestinians, if that's where we stand, and, what they're telling us is, and we know that what they're telling us is not in favor of allowing us to resist that, then there's nothing else to do. There's nothing else to do.
It's funny, you guys reminded me, when you mentioned committees, before the CIA, it was called the Office of Strategic Services in World War II. And there's a manual on field sabotage, and it says the best way to sabotage movements is to delegate things to committees and then make other committees and have meetings, and the opposite of everything you guys are doing, which is direct action in the street, occupying and building encampments. So it's very funny you mentioned that. It's available for download. It's from 1944. Anyone can find it. But you take my point. If I could just ask you guys, what have your encounters been with pro-Israel, or maybe we should say pro-genocide, counter-protesters? How have they been towards you, towards the establishment? What experiences have you had with them?
Yeah, I personally was harassed and assaulted by multiple Zionists during the encampment, both physically and verbally, and many other organizers were as well. And it's so interesting because that was the only time that you saw an interaction like that happen in the encampment and in that space. And it was so clear who, was bringing that and who was inviting that into the space. And it was the counter protesters, who were there to further, to threaten the safety of our organizers, to threaten the safety of the community members who were there. Even, there was a staff member, a professor at Emerson, who just, who was in there secretly recording a class while it was happening. And when he was asked to stop, it turned into a really uncomfortable and inappropriate conversation between him and I, where, he was incredibly condescending. He was incredibly accusatory. He was, just whatever. And I had to stop and I had to say, are you comfortable talking to me like that? As a professor, are you comfortable talking to a student like that? And he didn't know what to go. He didn't know where to go from there. And And so it's just so interesting because they manifest in so many different forms, you know, like the counter protesters and, you know, the pro-Israel, like any pro-Israel presence, it just really manifests in different forms. Kind of like the way that the police stand there unsure of why they're there, unsure of why they're arresting students, unsure of why they're, you know, participating in this, in this suppression, in this oppression. You can just really tell. You can tell they're all there for different reasons. Some of them don't want to be there. Some of them are not sure why they're there. And some of them are not even sure if they're, you know, mad at the right person or not. And I think that that was super reflective in the ways that, you know, Zionists would come in and kind of just aimlessly, you know, threaten the encampment. And I've seen that, you know, now that our encampment has been, you know, swept and raided and all of that, we've been spending a lot of time at other universities encampments in Boston, and they've had a lot more, I think, of like aggressive, like Zionist interactions than we've had. And even there, it's just so clear how aimless it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll say I think the focus on the anti-Semitism narrative is because that is the only card they have to play against a genocide. And they know that. So whenever there's like at Emerson, we had like 6 counter protesters that were standing across the street waving a flag. It was pathetic. It was sad. And whenever like anyone tried to engage with them, they don't have anything. They can't defend their position because they know their position is wrong because their position is genocide. So the only thing they have to say is, hey, you can't do that to me. That's anti-Semitic. It's not anti-Semitic. Um, Similarly, I mean, I saw a bunch of my friends get harassed by Zionists. There were a couple of physical altercations, and those were the only moments when, other than when the police raided, where there was any danger within our encampment. And like Sadia said, our encampment was open to the public, unlike a lot of these other universities. We don't have a quad, we don't have anything. So we were in like a public alley.
Mm-hmm.
And uh yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, I think you surmised it quite eloquently that the interactions you had with Zionists were rather pathetic. I think that's what that you were making as a point.
Yes. And um all the videos I've seen of, when we did our encampment, it was pretty soon after the first uh news about Colombia had happened. So there were not all these videos of all these different schools being horribly brutalized by the police and the Zionist counter protest. That like I had not seen any videos of that when we did our encampment. So now after our encampment, when so many of these schools have started similar ones, seeing uh, the Zionist backlash, like I think at UCLA and even at
Yeah.
MIT in Boston, it's terrifying. It's horrifying, and they are like throwing backpacks full of mice and fireworks, and it's speaking the quiet part out loud. How
Yeah.
how integral the occupation and um, persecution of others is to their livelihoods that they're so terrified of upending that. And I want to say that I know at least 3 or 4 people who, before our encampment, were staunchly Zionist and had the critical thinking skills to think, if I'm afraid of this place, why don't I go and see it for myself? And they went there, saw the love, saw the lack of anti-Semitism, saw the actual uplifting of Jewish voices, and ended up getting arrested with us. So it comes down to critical thinking.
Well, that's
Also,
that's very good that you've converted some people. Sorry, go ahead, Sadia.
no, yeah. Also, I mean, like the whole entire point and the messaging of the popular university for Gaza and the encampments that have been happening is that, like, you know, we're taking the people are taking our education back. The people are taking our communities back. We're taking we're taking it back, and we're putting things into practice. Because I mean, the way that, counter protesting, like Zionist counter protesting, relies so much on aggression and on escalation, on violence. In this, it's the same way that, Israel's existence relies so much on violence and aggression, because beyond that force, it's a lot of illusion. It's a lot of, twisting the truth and believing these really false narratives and these really false things, and demanding that's the truth. And I think, what I learned so much about how to continue. And I think a lot of our organizers, and as an organization, we learned so much about how to continue doing the work that we were doing within the encampment, throughout our organizing, and now really understanding, what it means to like physically experience, to like materially experience things, to like go out and to actually have these interactions, to actually have, the change, to actually, critically and intentionally engage with everything that is happening. And we fully intend in everything that we do to continue to reestablish and reassert the sentiment and the strength, and the reality of the popular university campaigns that we're seeing in all the encampments across the nation. Because for me personally, I have not stopped craving returning to that encampment. I have not stopped craving returning to that community, and returning to that place where Palestine never fell to the background, and where what was happening was always, always, always at the forefront of what we were talking about, what we were thinking, what we were doing. Because otherwise, you're in all of these spaces and it just seems like you're on a different planet. Like in classes, in regular classes at Emerson, we're talking about decolonization, we're talking about occupation, about apartheid, we're talking about the history of all of these things. But then we're closing our eyes when it's in front of us, and we're refusing to say like, oh, actually that's happening right now, right here. And so that is the most alienating, and it is the most, destructive, and I think harmful thing that I think we have as an organization been, trying to resist and trying to deconstruct, since we started, trying to deconstruct the reality that the conversations that we have in the classroom cannot extend beyond, but they absolutely can. The things that we are learning, I've never, I think, been able to put into practice, all of the skills that I've built over the last 4 years and all of the knowledge that I've obtained the way that I was during the encampment. And I completely intend to continue to fight to find myself and as in my community in, that space. And, accompanied by like the spirit and the fight for the liberation of Palestine, until it happens.
Yeah. I had class all that week that we were in the encampment. I didn't attend a single class because the encampment was my class, and I learned more in that space with those people in that community in the 3 other years I was at Emerson, completely honestly. I learned about the world, I learned about myself, I learned about my community members. And that is what is so threatening to these institutions, that we could possibly ever take our education into our own hands, that we possibly could ever build community outside of the structures they have imposed on us. And that is terrifying to them, I think, because what we had there was the future. That's what so many of the professors that were there told us. One professor said she called her mom and said, "This is what heaven looks like," when we had a Jewish Seder going on with Muslim students, Christian students, and Jewish students all sitting together. And I think what we have going on across the country and across the world will not be stopped, because we are a generation that grew up, the first generation to grow up watching genocide and war since we were born. since we were born. We're the first internet natives. We grew up in school shooter drills, and there I can only speak for myself. There will be no moment from now on in my life where I am not dedicated to the liberation of the people of Palestine and people all around the world. And I have an immense amount of privilege in that I have been able in the past to tune out of the struggle whenever I've wanted to. But now that will no longer be possible for me, because I will not let it be possible for me, because we have a movement that is growing around the world, and it's growing every day. Every day at our encampment, we were worried that the numbers would wane and we would just get raided by the police that night. It grew every single night. It grew every single night. And we see it on social media. Every university has got this going on. The encampments are getting bigger. Every time we think MIT is going to go down, hundreds of people show up and help them out again. And that's what's terrifying, is the people power. That's what's terrifying to these institutions.
Yeah, even the fact that the idea that we can protect each other is something that they work so hard to deny, in like the American and Western conscious, like every turn and every twist and turn, we are not told or encouraged to trust each other. We're not encouraged or told to be in community and to protect each other. We're told to be silent observers or to look away completely, one or the other. And just like Owen said, that's exactly what is so terrifying. It is so terrifying to them, to see that, now we know that it is enough. Like what people can bring to the table, the ways that we can, unite as a community is enough to actually like sustain and build something where you are taken care of, where you're protected, where you're not ever standing alone for anything. And I mean, in general, it's so unbelievably powerful, and it's something that, again, like I said, I will never stop fighting to be involved in. Again, I will never stop fighting to be as close to the encampment, in the spirit of the encampment, as much as possible, in every way possible.
To me, this is really music to my ears, because you're not just highlighting the Palestinian struggle, you're also highlighting important points like community building, decentralization, also the fact that there's an anti-colonial sentiment to it, an anti-liberal sentiment. Is very important because they blindside people like that. With institutions and media, they make you think that they care about minorities, and then in the end you see that they're part of the structure. And I'm very proud of you guys for outlining that. Just perhaps as a last question, I'll try and pack in a few here. How are you guys going to rebuild the encampment or get started again at Emerson? And what would you say to other students that are listening who maybe don't have an encampment or a movement going on yet at their universities? How would you motivate them, and what tips would you give them? And again, the floor is yours.
I think for me, I mean, I want to really again emphasize the fact that the way that I've seen, masses of people at Emerson in Boston and across the country, come together and, engage in this type of resistance and in this type of protest, in this type of community building, would not at all have been possible without everything that Palestine has communicated, without everything that Palestine has put on the line to just communicate these things to us, to just make sure that we could see them, and to make sure that we could engage with and understand their struggle. Myself, again, I'm Egyptian. I grew up, in proximity and in anticipation of, this type of revolution, this type of, community, and this type of reality. But a lot of people cannot say the same. A lot of people, especially, at PWIs, at privileged American higher education students, like institutions, a lot of people could not have ever imagined even remotely being a part of something like that, or even remotely, having to confront a shift in consciousness that allowed them to participate that day, allowed them to stand their ground that day. And again, that is Palestine. And as much as as much as, people are thanking us and are being proud of us, we are following the lead of the Palestinian people. We are absolutely following the lead of the Palestinian people, and we are doing everything we can for them along the way. And I think in terms of rebuilding the ways that we're going to continue with the Popular University campaign at Emerson, I think that there has been a massive cultural shift at Emerson in terms of not just views on Palestine, but in terms of, the way that as a community we function, that will undoubtedly resound for years to come at the very least. And what I'm, as an organizer, looking forward to most is, like I said before, the movement it has grown. It has grown, and it's in the people's hands, and it's so much bigger than any SJP. It's so much bigger than any JVP, any student organization at this point. And all we can do is really respect and nourish the type of spontaneity and the type of intuition that allowed us to stand our ground that day, and that allowed us to link arms that day and, protect one another. And so I think for us, it's going to be a lot about, nourishing, our movement has grown, and it's going to be a lot about nourishing that growth. And it's going to be so much more about, continuing to escalate until first we see a ceasefire, and then we see an end to the occupation. And understanding the ways that this fight did not start with the student movement, and it will continue on for as long as it needs to, way beyond the student movement. Because the encampment, yes, so many students put so much work into all these encampments, but all of it would not have been possible without the support of community members, without the support of, people who have been organizing for these causes and other causes for decades of their lives, without the support of faculty and staff, without the support of the houseless people, of the houseless folks who were coming and joining us in the encampment. Like, it's in everybody's hands now. And so, as an organizer, I think, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the people do with this.
I think what our encampment showed, and what our arrest prior to the encampment showed the people of Emerson, is that there is a great deal of power in the people, and that we are the people. And I don't think it's unfortunate that it took all of this and not the tens of thousands of lives in Palestine to get people to acknowledge it, but that we have so much power when we come together, and these institutions want so desperately for us to think that there is no power in what we do together.
Mm-hmm.
One of the questions we were asking ourselves during the encampment is, what even is the value of our degree or a career in the face of a genocide? What matters compared to this? And now I'm asking myself, how do we take what we had in the encampment out of the encampment and put it into practice so that everyone can be a part of it? And how do we continue that over the summer? Because I just know some of these Emerson kids are already, they're getting ready to go on vacation. They're getting ready to not think about Palestine for a couple months. So how do we keep that going? And what we're really trying to focus on is, how do we come into next semester with people ready to do some shit? Because we had a big end to our semester. But we want to let people know that that is just the beginning of what we've got going on at school, let alone what we got, like what's going on in this movement across the world. But like specifically at Emerson College, this is just the beginning. And get ready for next semester, because, we're not stopping.
And something that we really emphasized to everyone at the encampment, and in the rallies that we had post encampment, and all of the gatherings that we had after the encampment was raided, was that everything that we did there everyone who experienced that is able to take that home with them over the summer, take that to whatever part of the world that they're going to, whatever part of the country they're going to, and harness that in any way that is possible. Because I mean, these next few months, it's going to be so much about, again, beyond the students. We're restricted by, our semesters ending. We're restricted by our campuses. We're restricted by our administrators. We're restricted by whatever. But there's so many more facets outside of these institutions where the popular university and where the encampments can continue and will continue to live on and be established. So, I mean, figuring out every way that you can possibly support that. And if you're a student on a campus that does not have an encampment set up yet, find a campus that does have an encampment set up and go hang out with them. Go, see what you can do, what role you can play at the encampment. And, in general, how you can, bridge the organizing or the lack of organizing that's happening in the area that you're in with the organizing that might be happening, nearby or not nearby, because it's so possible. Again, it started with Palestine, and now it has completely, taken over so many of our states and our cities and of our colleges. And all we can do is continue to hope and plan for it to spread.
Well, again, I'm very, very happy to see these protests, all over the country and across the world, blowing up, and they're only getting stronger. Again, I urge you guys to just keep engaging in direct action. You've figured it out, and you've got a winning strategy. So is there anywhere that people can, find learning materials? Is there anything you'd like to plug, any website or account? Go right ahead.
SJP Emerson on Instagram, and I think also on TikTok. But on Instagram for sure, keep up with us, because, we're plugged into the student movement in Boston, and we're trying our best to, keep up with all the things that are happening, not just at Emerson, but, that are happening around the city and that are happening in Palestine. Keep eyes on Operation Olive Branch, and, we have a bunch of resources for mutual aid on our Instagram that we will continue to put out and continue to share, because, I mean, as we're sitting here right now, Rafah is being demolished. It is being attacked. It is being bombarded so violently. And the way that the violence against Gaza and against Rafah has just continuously escalated. I think one thing that a lot of students are really trying to remind everybody right now is, with as much, despite everything that is happening on our campuses, we need to ensure that our eyes remain on Palestine, and that our eyes remain on Rafah, and that we are doing everything we can for an immediate and permanent ceasefire, and to help the families and the people who are there, who are are seconds away from something that, we don't even know at all times. So we share a bunch of resources. Our biggest thing, I think, as an organization, is to remind everybody that everything is connected. Everything that's happening in America, everything that's happening in the UK, everything that is happening around the world, and everything that's happening in Palestine, it is all connected. And beyond that, everything that's happening in Sudan, in Haiti, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, everything is connected, and everything that we fight for, we do so in the name of liberation for Palestine and everyone beyond.
Yes. No, I absolutely agree. And, this is the number one message that I broadcast, is that it's about imperialism in the end. These are just symptoms of imperialism, but we have to connect it all and teach people that. And so again, guys, please follow here the Instagram account SJP Emerson. I've put the link in the description and in the comment section. And if you guys want, you can tag me and I'll try and boost your posts as a collaborator. So anytime. And thanks for coming on, both of you. It's really been a pleasure speaking and hearing what you guys are doing at Emerson. Thank you again, Sadia, and thank you, Owen. Really great chatting with you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, so I'll have the interview up separately in a moment, but right now we're going to proceed with the news, and I'm going to give you everything that's been happening in Palestine, the ceasefire, the so-called ceasefire that the Israelis conveniently ignore, and a lot more. So let's just jump right in. I just want to read some of your donations and comments to you. So thank you again to everyone who's supporting the show, especially after they demonetized it because of our work. Joanne says, good to see you back on YouTube. Thank you. And we have another one here, another contribution on PayPal. This is from Marissa. Says, we've had that exact same BS here in Denver. Yes. You know, I feel like a lot of college students would relate with these descriptions because it's like delegate everything, make committees and then subcommittees, send the police if that's not good enough, offer some nonsense, nonsense concessions like, okay, we'll pay for the bail, but like we're not going to divest from Israeli apartheid. That's going to keep rolling. It's good to hear from you, Marissa. And we have another contribution on PayPal. This is from Amjad. And thanks to all of you for donating. Let me continue with the news and try and explain to you what happened with the deal. Okay, so right. So this is a full explanation of the ceasefire agreement that Hamas signed and agreed to, but of course the Israelis didn't. So if that's confusing to you, well, that's because it is confusing. So you see how they've been nagging on the news. They've been saying for weeks, you know, Blinken, all of them, right? Every spokesperson from the UK to the US, they're saying, oh, well, you know, we're ready for a ceasefire. It's Hamas that would just won't agree to it, right? Hamas just won't agree. Well, guess what? Hamas blindsided them. Hamas, listen, you have to understand. For them, there are some good parts in this deal, and I'll explain to you in a moment. But one of the great things that they did by signing this is they exposed how hypocritical the Israelis are, because they're not interested in a ceasefire. They agree to it, and what do the Israelis do? All of a sudden they say, oh, well, we're not happy with it. You know, there's this and this and this issue, which they never brought up before. And now they've just gone on a massacre, you know, on a killing spree, and they're in Rafah. So again, so you have two things here, okay? You have the collapse of Western so-called diplomacy. So the West are pretending like they're good mediators, but actually, when it comes down to it, there is no deal to begin with. They're not going to get the Israelis to comply. So that's number one. And then the second thing is you have the illusion of the Israelis being interested in any form of diplomacy being completely obliterated. And that's if you haven't been paying attention since the Oslo Accords, okay? That's if you haven't been paying attention before. Every single time there's any kind of deal, the Israelis destroy it. Any meaningful one, okay? And now they've gone and attacked Rafah, and you see how the West, they just want to control Israel. They've got this pit bull on a leash, okay? And they're just letting go of the leash and saying, go ahead. Go ahead. Because for months they've been saying, we can't allow an attack on Rafah. We can't allow an attack on Rafah. And then if you listen to what they're saying, they're not saying that. They're telling you that they will allow it as long as the Israelis give them a good plan. Whatever the hell that means. It means nothing. All right? When the Israelis go into Rafah, there is no consideration for any human life. There is no consideration for any animal life, for the environment. It's just destruction in the full sense of the term. Destruction. And I will show you this now with photographic and video evidence. But first we go through the deal. So this was the deal was supposed to be rolled out in 3 phases, okay? Now, phase 1 deals primarily with matters that are most pertinent, okay? So that, for example, the fact that the Israelis would just get out of the Gaza Strip. As you can see here, this is a direct translation of the deal itself, okay? This is the actual agreement, what it literally says. It's not an abbreviation. So the first thing would be a temporary ceasefire and the withdrawal of Israeli occupation forces from the Netzarim corridor. Israeli forces would then withdraw from eastern and residential areas of Gaza. Military, aviation, and surveillance over the region would cease for 10 hours daily, extending to 12 hours on days of prisoner releases. So that means every day, no planes or drones in the sky for 10 hours. And if it's a day where they're releasing hostages, 12 hours, no planes, no drones in the sky. The daily entry of 600 aid trucks, including 50 fuel trucks, with 300 specifically allocated for northern Gaza. Remember, northern Gaza is the area that's been hit the worst. And so that's why they are very clearly saying this, because in the previous ceasefire, the Israelis, they were literally murdering people who were just trying to go back to their homes. Because ceasefire means ceasefire. It means you stop shooting at people. That's exactly what it means. But the Israelis, they thought, oh no, actually now it means you can't go back to your house if it's in northern Gaza, which is something they didn't say before. And they just kill people, right? There's no discussion, there's no form of understanding, nothing. Then the Israelis would have to fully withdraw from El Rashid Street on day 3, enabling forcibly displaced Palestinians to return home and humanitarian aid to enter without obstacles. The Israelis would then withdraw from Gaza's central areas on day 22. And then under the terms of the agreement, the resistance will release Israeli captives, including non-military, elderly, and those who are sick and under the age of 19. The Israelis would then reciprocate by releasing 30 Palestinian children and women for each female Israeli prisoner, based on lists provided by Hamas. Do you understand? So they will release, the resistance will release people who are not in the military, which is basically everyone, okay? People who are in the military is basically everyone. So now this limits the list, because remember that when the Israelis were saying, oh my God, they kidnapped a woman, turns out that she's actually in the Israeli army, because all the women have to join the Israeli army, which they don't tell you. In any case, for every Israeli released, 30 Palestinians have to be released, okay? And Hamas are naming specific people they want out. These are not people who are in Hamas. They're not even in Gaza. These are people in the West Bank, in Jerusalem. Do you understand? So these are in territories that Hamas don't even have a real political or military presence in, because they're doing it for Palestinians. That was the whole point of October 7. The whole point was a hostage rescue operation, but I'll go back to that later. Let's just continue with this. So then after that, Hamas will release all living Israeli female soldiers in exchange for 50 Palestinian prisoners per soldier, okay? So first we release everybody who's not military. Now we release female soldiers, and you give us 50 Palestinians per Israeli female soldier. And then after that, 3 Israeli prisoners will be released on the 3rd day, followed by another 3 every 7 days, so every week after that, okay? So every week, 3 Israeli prisoners released. That's the schedule. And during the 6th week, Hamas will release the remaining civilian prisoners covered in the phase 1, with Israel releasing the agreed upon number of Palestinian detainees. On day 22, Israel will release all prisoners from the Shalit deal who are re-detained, and any detainees held after October 7, 2023. Now, this is very important. This is extremely important. Why do Hamas say we want everybody who was arrested after October 7th? Because the Israelis, just to show you how malicious they are, how gross and malfeasant their behavior is, they went in the West Bank, which you never hear about in the news, and they started rounding up people imagine the Gestapo and the SS just jumping off their trucks and rounding people up with their dogs, with their German shepherds. No difference whatsoever. None. They've arrested 9,000 people since October 7 in the West Bank. Now, remember, I told you October 7, the whole point was to liberate the Palestinian hostages that are held under Israeli, under Israel's control. And so the Israelis basically said, oh, okay, so October 7 is to liberate these Palestinians. Well, guess what? We're just going to go and arrest another 9,000 just to like stick our fingers in the air. That's what that was, okay? And so now part of the deal is, no, you release all of them out immediately. Everybody after October 7th. That's why this point is so important. Continuing. The exchange process, meaning the hostage exchange process, is contingent on compliance with the agreement terms. That means you can't screw around and say, okay, we're not going to withdraw from the eastern sector. Oh, and give us the hostages. No, you have to abide by every single one of the above points, and then you get the hostages. Because that's the only way you make sure the Israelis comply. Including halting military operations and completing necessary legal procedures to prevent the rearrest of Palestinian prisoners. Usually in civilized countries, you have something called double jeopardy, meaning you can't arrest someone for the same crime and try them for the same crime twice, right? Because that's barbaric and it's stupid. And so the Israelis, no, there's nothing. It's just we arrest you without charges even, and we throw you in a prison. It's like a caveman behavior. There is no legal system. There is no legal basis for this whatsoever. I see you, I grab you, and I throw you in a prison cell. That's the Israeli process. Okay, and then when someone asks them why, they say, well, it's because of this British colonial law, blah blah blah. It's got no basis in international law and even Israeli law. So sanctions imposed on Palestinian prisoners and detainees after October 7 will be lifted. The conditions improved. The UN and its agencies, including UNRWA, will continue their services in Gaza during all three phases, commencing infrastructure rehabilitation across all Gaza areas, accompanied by the necessary civil defense equipment and debris removal. This is very important as well because the Israelis have created tons of debris and rubble from their bombs. Remember, who is going to clean this up? You have to import the equipment and you have to bring people in to help clean the mess up, because the Israelis definitely won't do it. And so the agreement facilitates the entry of necessary supplies for housing forcibly displaced individuals who lost their homes during the war, with no fewer than 60,000 temporary housing units. Now, me personally, I disagree with this point. Why do I disagree with that? Because the trick that the Israelis used to make Palestinians refugees was sort of like this. Let's just build them temporary housing. All right, we'll get the UN to give them temporary housing, right? But it's not temporary. And then you end up with 3 generations of Palestinians living in tents. So that's the only reason I disagree with it. You have to put it in there in the same sentence that it's a temporary housing unit, and then there's a cutoff date where all the houses have to be rebuilt, and the Israelis will pay for it. Do you understand? You have to be very clear with this. Otherwise, they start playing games with you, and you end up with more and more refugees. And people in Gaza are already refugees themselves, the majority, from other parts of Palestine. So it's so many crimes, in one. Unbelievable, really. Then we come to phase 2. Phase 2 consists of the return of sustainable calm and the cessation of military operations. So that means nothing military whatsoever, okay? Nothing at all. No flybys, no drones, no patrols, nothing. The announcement of the cessation of military operations precedes the exchange of male prisoners. So that means phase 2. Phase 2 is so important, it's just like one line. Seriously. If you want the male hostages back, no military activity whatsoever. Once we've established that, then we can move to phase 3. So that's phase 2 by itself. Phase 3, exchange includes all the bodies and remains of resistance martyrs, Palestinians, and IOF casualties after identification. That basically means they will return the remains of people who've been killed by Israel, which is a lot. And I don't mean just because Israel have killed a lot of people, but the Israelis will withhold someone's body after they've been killed, like it's a form of torment against the family. It's true. And again, this is a British colonial law from the emergency defense regulations from 1945. So it's very barbaric, and they still use it. And then after this, they will begin the implementation of a reconstruction plan for the Gaza Strip in 3 to 5 years, and compensation for all affected individuals. The Palestinian side will refrain from building military facilities and military infrastructure. The Palestinian side would not import any equipment, raw materials, or other components used for military purposes. The complete blockade on the Gaza Strip would be lifted. You see why this deal is so important and why the Israelis don't want it? Because they thought that they can just, keep Hamas busy, and then Hamas are never going to agree to it, and they'll just keep, going in. And then when they saw, oh crap, actually they agreed to it, we have to go bomb Rafah because we don't want to lift the siege. The last important point here, the most important point, the complete blockade will be lifted. Do you understand what that means? Because they've been under blockade since 2007. Gaza has never known Israeli presence without a blockade, because they occupied it until 2005. They left, and then barely a year later, siege, and it's there till this day. So you understand why this deal is so important. It's not a good deal. If you ask me, like I said, I gave you one point that I'm not happy with. I don't think that Palestinians should agree to not building military installations. Why should they agree to that? Where is their self-determination? Self-determination means defense. It means Palestinians have more right to self-defense than anyone on the planet in this moment in time, because they are facing an onslaught that none of us can even imagine. So to say, well, you have no defense from that the next time it comes around. No, I'm sorry, I don't agree to that. But anyway, the point is this deal is not going ahead anyway, because the Israelis have shown themselves to be disgusting liars. They are liars. They are scoundrels in every sense of the term. Scoundrels. Okay? And what they have done is they have shown their true face. They have shown that they are not interested in diplomacy. They are not interested in a ceasefire. They want to go in. They want to take Rafah. And when I say take Rafah, I really mean that. Annex it. And they want to implement their plans, their grand plans, building the canal, stealing the gas and the oil. All of the things I outlined in the miniseries, and I'm going to keep telling you about it until the whole world knows about it, because this is what is behind the war. It's not just their racism against Palestinians. It's not just taking the land. It's not just Greater Israel. It's the resources as well. And once you understand this, you will understand why the West are marching in lockstep with the oppression of Palestinians. Now, look what happened here, because the Israelis killed another one of their own people, which shows you how much they care about hostages. So this was revealed from Abu Ubaidah, who is the famous speaker, right? So this is a 70-year-old woman, and she died as a result of an injury from an Israeli airstrike on the Gaza Strip. Now, keep in mind that the Israelis have extracted, I believe, 1 to 3 hostages through force. Okay, so 1 to 3 people maximum. That's how many they have saved using force. They liberated much more through the ceasefire, which shows you that diplomacy can work, but they're not interested in that. And they have killed at least 60. I think the number is far higher now, but Israel have killed 60 Israelis by through bombardment and other means of siege imposed on the Gaza Strip. Now remember, on October 7 itself, it's wrong to say there was no massacre of Israelis. There was a massacre of Israelis, but it's not the Palestinians who carried out this massacre. It's the Israelis' own people. Okay, those Israelis were killed by the IDF, by the Israelis themselves, because they used tanks, they used helicopters, and they used drones to just wipe out everybody in front of them. They didn't care to find out who is Palestinian, who is not, which still shows you how, which wouldn't be okay, but it shows you how brutal they are. I'm surprised Israelis don't understand this. The brutality that is being inflicted on the Gaza Strip right now, they got a taste of it on October 7th. The Israelis got a taste of it because those that were killed knew in that moment what it is like to be a Palestinian facing indiscriminate fire from an Israeli bastard in a helicopter. You understand? And so here you see this brutality further extended past October 7th to this very day, where the Israelis are still killing their own people because of how indiscriminate they fire, because of how bloody and just violent, you know, like a berserker rage. That is the only way to describe their behavior, berserker. And so one of the people that was on the list to be released is, of course, here, let me get you a picture. Marwan Barghouti. Okay, so this guy is very popular, and he's been in prison for a very, very long time. He's a Palestinian, and he's in prison for many reasons, but you have to understand that Fatah... So I just want to show you the difference between Fatah and Hamas. Because Hamas, they want everybody released, including him. But when it comes to Fatah, they're afraid of him taking over and becoming the president because of how popular he is. So, you know, he would basically dethrone Mahmoud Abbas. And so they're afraid of that happening, and they got his name taken off of the list of requested hostages to be freed. So that's something you should be aware of, which is very scandalous, honestly. And they just keep in mind, the Palestinian Authority, they didn't ask Hamas to take his name off the list. They asked the Israelis. And that shows you the level of cooperation between the Israelis and the PA. You know, the PA is basically outsourced occupation. Unfortunately. That doesn't mean all the Palestinians who live under the PA are in love with occupation. No. We are talking about just Abbas and, you know, his several thousand security who do nothing about Israeli violence and cooperate with the Israelis instead. In any case, you see the lengths that Hamas have gone to secure the release of Palestinians who would have never seen the light of day. You have to understand what October 7 was. It was a hostage rescue operation. The whole point of that is hostage rescue. And the truth is, the very next day, all the Israelis could have gone home if Netanyahu and his government would have agreed to the deal. It's the same deal since the beginning. We give you your Israelis back, and you give us the Palestinians back. That's it. Free our people. Get these Palestinians out of jail. And again, when you're doing hostage exchange or prisoner exchange, you have to exchange someone for another, the people you're exchanging have had to been in prison for the same amount of time. You can't take someone who's been in prison for 6 months and then say, well, you know, I don't know, maybe I'll give you this person for someone who's been there for 30 years. So my point here is that the Palestinians are getting an unfair deal, ironically, because the hostages that they have been in captivity for 6-7 months now. Those Palestinians have been in captivity for decades, some of them, literally decades. So the Israelis are getting an easy bargain. You know, it's like they're liberating all these Palestinians for nothing, for hostages that were in captivity for a few months. Now, I'm not saying anyone should be in captivity. On the contrary, I'm not saying anyone should be in captivity. I'm not saying, oh, they should just keep them in prison for 12 more years so they're equal to a Palestinian prison. No, that's not the point. The point I'm trying to impress upon you is that the Palestinians are getting an unfair deal, given how prisoner exchanges are normally sanctioned between, for example, Russia and America, right? I'm basing that off of Yaroshenko, who I interviewed when he was liberated by the Russians through hostage exchange. You remember there was that Marine, Trevor Paul, and then also Brittany Garner, right? So in any case, the point is that this ceasefire it has some good points in it, like the lifting of the siege. It has some dire aid that is needed instantly, packaged in. Okay, but the problem is that the Israelis wouldn't even agree to that, and that shows you how ill-intentioned they are. Okay, Palestinians are in dire need of a lot of these food trucks, and 600, for example, this is another point I'll criticize in the deal. You see where it says 600 aid trucks here. 600 aid trucks is barely sufficient during peacetime. We've got Palestinians who are missing limbs, who are in shock, who, have their homes destroyed. How on earth are you going to take care of all these people, 2 million people with 600 trucks a day? Even 6,000 a day wouldn't be sufficient. Do you understand the gravity of this situation? Do you understand the scale? How monstrous this calamity is? 6,000 trucks a day wouldn't suffice. And so to say 600, for me, this is ridiculous. I would never agree to this. I would demand 6,000. What's the point? What's the point otherwise? Now, I know some people will say, okay, but you can at least save some people with 600. Fine, but you understand how the Israelis are giving Palestinians an unfair deal, and even then they won't agree to it. What can you say? Like, you have an enemy entrenched on your land who is stealing your house, uprooting your trees, killing your children, killing your cousins, your siblings, whatever, and then they refuse to negotiate any form of diplomacy. Is just they won't have it. They just want to eradicate you. They want to commit genocide against you. So this is where we're at. And then people wonder why the Palestinians have picked up armed resistance. Well, what else would you do here? Would you throw a chair at them? I mean, what would you do to get some concessions? What would you do? You can see one ceasefire, 7 days, and then back to normal, and then this piece of crap, and they won't even sign it. I mean, come on, have some sense, you know. You have to understand why the Palestinians are in dire straits. Now, I'll play you a clip of an Israeli. You can see what these are Israelis protesting the deal. Take a listen.
And again, we see that the Israeli government is doing everything to fail the deal. We expect from the Israeli government to take this deal to save all the remaining hostages who are still alive.
We need every international intervention to help us urge Israel into doing the right thing, urge the Israeli government to do the right thing and sign this hostage deal. The hostages have no more time. We cannot wait.
So these are people whose families are hostages in Gaza. Well, at least the last guy, I know him. In any case, I think he was on with CNN. He was on CNN with Amanpour a while back. Anyway, this is the crux of the issue. Okay, you have a ceasefire deal. Hamas said yes. Israel said no. Now I will move on to the invasion of Rafah. I will go into full detail about this. I mean, really, when you grasp what is happening right now, you will scream. So the last thing, this is my tweet, and you can see so clearly that Hamas accepted a ceasefire proposal. And what was Israel's response? Israel's response was to bomb 1.5 million refugees. Remember this, the next time Zionists put on their crocodile tears and say, we don't know why they hate us. They just hate Jews. They're anti-Semitic. Maybe they just hate violent assholes who are not interested in diplomacy and steal their land. How about that? Does that, make it simple for you to understand? In any case, let me read to you some comments before I continue. Let me read some comments to you. We've got a contribution here. This is from... give me a second. It's loading. We've got one from Paul. Paul says, keep up the good work. I love the live stream and was tuned in last time. Great work. And we have another one from Jessica who says, thank you so much. And from Puerto Rico. So thank you guys very much. We also have Alina who joined on Patreon. So I'm going to play her a crab dance and then I'll continue with the invasion of Rafah and much more. So don't go anywhere. And please give them a hand, would you?
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
والله انت كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China. 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 China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s. A number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Get up. Get up. Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why attack Sanders?
Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it! I yield my time! Fuck you!
Well, I can't wait to see what Biden says this campaign trail, eh? We'll have lots of new things to put in the crab dance, man. There's something funny that happened last time, but I forgot what it was, and I forgot how to put it in. Anyway, thank you, Philippe, for the donation. It says, for educating new generations of righteous world citizens under the rules of our Lord God Creator, who ordained us to love one another. Thank you. That's very kind, and that's all I hope to do, is to get more people fired up and who understand the issues. Thank you. Maria says, you are gone from my Patreon. I'm wondering if anyone else is dealing with the same issue. Well, that's not good. So, guys, as Maria says, please check your Patreon to make sure that it's working. They love to play tricks, I suppose. I'll have a look myself afterwards. So just give me a second. I think we've got a donation as well on... Yeah, there's a donation here on Rumble. And it's from Olia Tuba, who says, hey, Richard, brother, just passing by to leave a small donation. I'll come back to listen to the whole show tomorrow. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. And there was another one up above, but I can't seem to find it. Forgive me. It was during the interview, but I'll try and find it afterwards and respond that way. In any case, let me talk about Rafah. So... God, I mean, sometimes I see stuff that I've prepared for you, and I have to like save my reaction for afterwards. It's so bad. It's because it's really bad. Okay, guys, are you ready? Are you ready to witness the, the presence of evil in Gaza? Unfortunately. So this is the invasion of Rafah in Gaza. The last place left. The Israelis have squeezed the entirety of Gaza and its residents like a tube of toothpaste. And now nothing is left save for Gaza. And Rafah is on the border. Nothing is left save for Rafah. Rafah is on the border with Egypt. And it is this area right here. I've pulled that up for you so you can see. See that? It's this border town between the two. And the Israelis have gone and invaded it. They have done and crossed this red line that every Western government said, oh, we won't accept this unless it safeguards civilians. Well, let's see what they've been doing to civilians, shall we? Let's see what Joe Biden and the EU's idea of safe and viable looks like. So here they are, amassing like a bunch of orcs that are ready to attack Helm's Deep. So you see what he did? He was blowing, or rather playing, a ram's horn. Okay, and as Dan says it here, moments before invading Zionist soldiers blast a ram's horn and chant, "Let us destroy Rafah." Same ideology as ISIS, but they pretend to be Jews instead of Muslims. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. Here's Netanyahu.
אמש הנחיתי בהסכמת קבינט המלחמה לפעול ברפיח. תוך שעות כוחותינו הניפו את דגלי ישראל במעבר רפיח והורידו את דגלי החמאס. הכניסה לרפיח משרתת שני יעדי מלחמה מרכזיים: השבת חטופינו וחיסול החמאס. אנחנו כבר הוכחנו בשחרור החטופים הקודם. לחץ צבאי על החמאס הוא תנאי הכרחי להשבת חטופינו. הצעת החמאס אתמול נועדה לטרפד את כניסת כוחותינו לרפיח. זה לא קרה. כפי שקבע קבינט המלחמה פה אחד, הצעת החמאס רחוקה מאוד מהדרישה.
And now he's explaining why he's a liar, why he's not interested in diplomacy, he's not interested in a ceasefire, yada, yada, yada. We know. Save us the nonsense. And so now you can see the peaceful Israelis, the ever so peaceful Israelis going into Gaza and crushing something as insignificant as an I Love Gaza sign. All right? So just destruction of property and crushing it as a symbol, just an insignificant sign that says "I love Gaza." It's when you enter from Rafah, and making sure to destroy any semblance of a Palestinian presence. And here they are celebrating. They're actually celebrating their invasion.
כביש מספר 1, כל המשאיות לעזה חוסמים אותם,
As one of you says in the comments, this is Stephen. So we'll never see them fighting, eh? Yeah, you will see Israeli soldiers bombing children, torturing prisoners, abusing prisoners, committing war crimes, but never actually fighting. Never. Never, never, never. You will never see them fighting because they're incapable of fighting. Here's what they've done to Gaza. Look at the satellite imagery. How in 24 hours, they seized the Rafah crossing, okay? And then they cleared all of the aid trucks. All of these aid trucks that were stranded in Egypt waiting for approval. Do you see how many trucks there are? I mean, I've talked about this before at great length with you guys. I've done many, many videos about how the Israelis divert the aid trucks, they delay them, they send them to the back of the line, all of these things, right? I've covered it in detail. And I showed you video from this exact highway. These are hundreds of trucks. That's May the 5th, and the next day they're all gone. Nothing. They've destroyed all of the aid or taken it elsewhere, who knows? The point is it's not getting to Palestinians, right? It's not getting to the people who need it. Here also at the crossing itself, all these aid trucks, you see, they're like ants. There's so many of them. They're like ants, right? Gone the next day. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You know how malfeasant and malevolent this behavior is. It's like hatred from the heart. You know, it's real racism, hatred, Nazism. You call it whatever you like. You can call it whatever you like, but we know what it is. It's evil. And you can see here what they did also, the Israelis, is they put all of the international workers, the humanitarian workers, the doctors, the healthcare officials that have come from overseas, from all over the place. They pack them into buses and then ship them out of Gaza so they don't see the invasion of Rafah. Okay? Look at this, for example. They're crying in the bus because they know that they won't see anyone in Gaza again. These are doctors that came from Kuwait to work in Gaza. And now they're being told they have to go right before the invasion. So one of them is crying, you can see. And one of these doctors is actually Palestinian, but in Kuwait, right? And he had never actually been to Palestine. So it was the first time that he had ever set foot in Palestine. He was crying here. And he's from the same group as the one that we're then told to ship out.
شفتكم لحالها الله يرضى عليك لا تفتني زورت حبيبتي الله يحفظك يا عمي ابو حمزه الله يحفظك مالك اول مره ادخل بلدي الحمد لله رب العالمين انت اصلك من غزه من يافا يا حي الله نورت غزه.
Yeah, so he's saying it's the first time I've ever been here. And he said, are you from Gaza? He said, no, from Jaffa. So it's elsewhere in Palestine, but still Palestinian.
شفتكم لحالها شفتكم الله يقويك بالعافيه والله نورتنا.
And you can see under the worst circumstances. And so what the Israelis did while taking Rafah, you have to understand that this invasion is not just bad because the West broke their word. And the Israelis are not interested in diplomacy. And this is not important. It's important because they're going to slaughter the Palestinians that they've been pushing south for months. 1.5 million people that they've displaced internally. That these refugees that they've turned into refugees a second and a third time. And on top of that, the peace treaty with Egypt, the 1978 peace treaty. Now, the Israelis, just to show you how much control they have over the Egyptians, just as an act of well, it's really just spiteful, honestly. It's spiteful and it's mocking. Look at this. They're driving armored vehicles up the border with Egypt with a giant Israeli flag. I mean, the flag is bigger than the damn APC itself.
עד ציר פילדלפי, תראו איזה יופי, דגל ישראל.
That's an M113 over there with the flag, okay? Vietnam era. But you see how ridiculously big that is. It's like to show the Egyptians, like, yeah, we're here now, and we're even closer than before. So you can see here, this is the raising of the flag. The Israelis literally tore down the Palestinian flag and raised the Israeli one. But yeah, let's not talk about that. It's anti-Semitic. Yeah, it's colonial is what it is. This is colonialism. You see that? That's what colonizers do. That's what colonizers do. And on top of that, they not only invaded the place, tore down the aid trucks, put up an Israeli flag instead of a Palestinian flag, driving armored vehicles with giant Israeli flags so you can see them kilometers away to taunt the Arabs. Now they've even setting up a synagogue. They've even setting up a field synagogue in Rafah, right? To show you how Jewish they are. Right? Because they want to convince you and the world that they're so Jewish, right? They pray even during genocide. You see that? They've got that's the IDF logo, right there, the IDF logo. So, you know, they have to take a Jewish star and then put it on top of everything so they can hijack it. It's like ISIS, you know? It's like ISIS. And so you see how they have tables and chairs, brand new, packed in boxes, just ready to be unpacked and built and assembled wherever they invade so they can colonize it and steal it. The Israelis, you have to understand something. This is nothing. This is a joke compared to what they did in 1948 and afterwards. You know what they did? They would literally bring an assembled house on a crane and then drop the house in place and just say like, yeah, this is our village now. I swear to God, I'm not joking. I swear to God, I'm not joking. The Israelis would bring an assembled house, like furnished and everything, drop it with a crane, bam, we're here. I mean, have you ever heard of anything so just rank in your life? So this is what we're talking about. You see the border between occupied Palestine and Egypt. Now, for me, and for people who discard colonialism, this is a garbage map. This is not a real map. You have to understand something. Gaza is the border between Syria and Egypt, okay? Gaza is the last thing in Syria before you cross into Egypt. These are logical, normal borders that are defined geographically. They're natural borders, right? So the only people that came and put these lines on the screen are people from Europe. They're Europeans, okay? No one in the region actually agreed to this or asked for this. And so in any case, just to explain it to you in contemporary terms, the Israelis are just going ahead and extending the border further into Egypt, okay? I'll read you what Elijah wrote here, for example. He says, for Israel to enter East Rafah, it needs Egypt's permission. It needs Egypt's permission because Israeli occupation forces are walking on Egyptian borders where they are not allowed in large numbers since the 1979 peace treaty. I believe they signed it in 78, but who cares? This is irrelevant. Let me just explain this to you. The Israelis are sending thousands of troops. They're not allowed to put more than 4,000 in that area. And they're sending everything, all the armored vehicles, all the troops, and just really occupying it. And Egypt is saying nothing. Egypt does nothing. Because Egypt's been bought. Egypt has been bought. You understand? This is what they're doing. They're going from this crossing here and then just speeding across into Rafah so they can extend their control. And even before that, it was awful because the Israelis, you can see this crossing down here, trucks that are on the left. You see where my mouse is? Near the Mediterranean Sea. The trucks that are on this highway would have to divert all the way down to this crossing and then go through the Israeli process, which just serves to delay. So instead of just driving straight, just drive straight into Gaza. No, let's go south for 4 weeks while the Israelis inspect the truck and then they maybe reject it and find something else they don't like. And then, you know, let's just do it that way. So now that's being extended. That Kerem Shalom crossing is being extended to encapsulate Rafah as well. Okay? Here, Daoud also says that in violation of the Egypt-Israel peace treaty and a stab in the back to their American protectors, Israel took over the Rafah crossing point, threw the Palestinian flag on the ground, and raised the Israeli flag, totally signifying the reoccupation of Gaza. Day one of total occupation. Absolutely, this is how you should look at the situation. Absolutely. And now here's the best part. Are you ready? Are you ready for the best part? Because I swear you haven't heard it. I swear you haven't heard it. It turns out that the Israelis are going to hand over control of the Rafah crossing to an American company, to a US security contractor in giant quotation marks. Is that swell? So this is reported exclusively in an Israeli paper in Haaretz, which is an Israeli daily. And let me just show you how beautiful this is. I mean, really, it's just like they collected the biggest scumbags on the planet, brought them into a planning room and said, how can we fuck Palestinians and make money at the same time? You know, how can we do this the best way? Let's think of something. So a private security contracting company is going to take control of it, okay? And according to Haaretz, this is in order to secure the deal, they've been negotiating with a private company in the US that specializes in assisting armies and governments around the world and engaged in military conflicts, okay? Assisting armies and governments around the world engaged in military conflicts. The company has operated in several African and Middle Eastern countries, guarding strategic sites like oil fields. That's number one on the list, of course. Oil fields, airports, army bases, and sensitive border crossings. It employs veterans of elite US Army units. Okay, let's get together, class. Let's all have a guess. Everybody gets one guess. What company do you think this is? Go ahead. I actually don't know. I really don't know as of yet, but I have a very, very good guess of who it is. Okay, so let's all take a guess in the comment section. And even if you're watching on replay, please comment nevertheless, because you likely can't see the live chat anyway. So let's do it like that. Ah, there we go. Marvin has got the lucky guess. Eric Prince. Absolutely. Yeah. Blackwater, which they've now renamed, of course, right? Blackwater, without question. Yeah. This is Blackwater. And so this scumbag, remember that these people are terrorists. They really are. Donald Trump pardoned 4 of them. They were in Iraq and they just massacred people like for no reason. All of you said Blackwater. It's exploding. BlackRock would also maybe technically be correct, but that's not a military contractor. It's a giant firm. So maybe they're involved in some way. I don't know. But the military security firm is definitely Blackwater. I've no doubt. We might see a different one prop up, but we might see a different one prop up, but I don't think so. So let me read something to you. Give me a second. So here it says also in the Times of Israel, okay, they also confirm to us that this unnamed company employs former elite US soldiers and is an expert on securing strategic sites in Africa and the Middle East, okay? And now, asked about a report in a press briefing, the US State Department spokesperson, Matthew Miller, the one who looks like a vampire. I find him very funny, honestly, I really do. So he said that he's not aware of that at all. Now, you can't blame him because US officials are hired to lie. That's the only thing they do. So you can't blame him. He just has to lie to you and claim he doesn't know anything about it. So let's recap. The Israelis have now gone from one end to the other of Gaza, physically, literally. They have taken complete control of it, although, again, to be fair, they don't actually have control. They are getting screwed by Hamas, and I'll come back to that in a second. But the Israelis have gone from one end to the other. They've established a foothold now in Rafah. They are bombing 1.5 million refugees that they have displaced already in the past. So they're, second, third generation refugees, now again refugees. And they let go of the ceasefire deal, which they claimed that Hamas won't sign, and Hamas did sign. And so now the Israelis and the Americans, remember, the Americans were supposed to be the guarantors of this ceasefire deal. Remember, Egypt, Qatar, and the United States and the United Nations were supposed to be the guarantors of the peace deal, of the ceasefire deal. And now that the Israelis refuse to sign it, after Hamas have agreed to it, it's like, where is the effort from the United States, from the UN, from Egypt, from Qatar, to get the Israelis in line and tell them, hey, you have to see reason and agree to this, because now you're making us look bad. There's nothing. There's nothing, because they all have the same interest in taking control of Gaza. They don't give a shit about a ceasefire deal or peace deal. They do not care. They do not care. This is all money to them. It's all money to them. The Egyptian government has built several walls to keep Palestinians out because it's not an Egyptian government. It's an American Zionist government controlling Egypt. Understand the difference. There's an American Zionist government in Egypt, in Qatar, and in all of these Arab countries that never seem to, be the subject of human rights scrutiny. Because they're okay, they're all right. It's okay for them to, attack journalists and do things like this because they're on the US side. So the US doesn't say anything. So you see here what they've done. Yes, they've gone from one end to the other, from the Erez crossing to the Rafah crossing. But do they have control? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I've read several accounts from Israelis talking about this, how they take control of a checkpoint and then they find out in a few hours that they don't have any control of the bloody checkpoint, and they're getting hit with RPGs from every direction. You have Hamas coming out of tunnels that they didn't even know were there. You can't win here. You can't win. This is like an American saying that they, an American unit saying they control the jungle in Vietnam. No, the fuck you don't. You don't control shit. you don't control one tree. So the same thing is true here. They don't control a thing. They want to give you the illusion of control, but that doesn't mean they're not committing atrocities. You don't have to control Gaza to be able to commit genocide there. Evil is chaotic, yes? Evil is chaotic. It thrives in chaos. But don't worry, because they set up a synagogue, so, let's not say anything, because that would be anti-Semitic. But it's okay for them to kill Semites, yeah, that's fine. And to violate peace deals and do whatever they want. Carte blanche, blank check, write whatever you want on it. So we have seen now the extent of these negotiations, and you'd be hard pressed to blame Hamas or any future Palestinians for scrutinizing any so-called diplomatic efforts. What diplomatic efforts? You can't reach a deal with the Israelis or the Americans or the Egyptians or Qatar. They're going to stab you in the back. So what solution, what recourse do they offer you but armed struggle? None. Absolutely none. This is why people support Hamas, because they know they can't get to any solution through dialogue, because the person you're dialoguing with is not interested in speaking. They're busy killing you and starving you and stealing your house. You understand? And this is straight up colonial behavior. If you had any doubt in your mind, if you had any doubt about their intentions, about the colonial nature of the Israeli occupation, well, then let there be no further doubt. I mean, this is very clear. When you rip down someone's flag and raise your own and start putting it on tanks to mock everyone there, including the people on guard duty. I mean, the Arabs who are on guard duty on the Egyptian side can see this with their binoculars. They're not stupid. They're not blind. It's just to mock them. It's a straight up invasion of both Rafah, of Palestinian side of Rafah, and Egypt. Okay, so I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is an invasion of Egypt and an invasion of Palestine. But we already knew that they invaded these countries a long time ago, right? So it's not news, really. It's not that much of a breaking news story. But nevertheless, you have to understand that even the Egyptians now, they signed a peace deal with the Israelis, and the Israelis don't respect it. So we have two cases here: the current ceasefire deal and the 1978-1979 peace treaty, where you can see that the Americans and the Israelis will pretend to agree to something, and then when you implement your side of the bargain, they stab you in the back. You can't deal with them. You can't deal with them. They're not interested in diplomacy. They think diplomacy is a way to bide their time, to waste your time and to trick you and confuse you and then stab you in the back. They view diplomacy as a tool of war, not diplomacy. Okay? So understand this very clearly. This is a straight up violation of the 79 Treaty. There's no discussion about it. The terms are very clear in the Camp David Accords. It's very, very clear. So once again, this is another lesson why you don't sign deals with the Israelis and the Americans, because they will screw you no matter what scenario we're talking about. Iran nuclear deal, when it comes to NATO, they didn't sign anything. They gave their word. Worth nothing. It's worth crap. So you see, you can't trust the American and Israeli diplomats. They're not diplomats. They're sent to buy time and fool you and trick you. Now let's look at the people on the receiving end. And what I'm about to show you is really rough. It's really rough. Thank you for your contributions, for supporting the channel. And We've got a donation here from Mahanaz. Thank you. Once again, I'll remind you guys that they demonetized the channel because I tell too much truth about Israel and Western imperialism, so they punished me by taking away my income, essentially. So I need you guys to please help me make up for it. If you can donate on PayPal or donate on Patreon, I'd be much obliged and most appreciative. So I'll leave the links below. You can also donate on GoFundMe. The link works again. It mysteriously stopped working after October 7. I don't know why. I haven't the faintest. But it works now again. So please donate if you can, support independent media. And, you know, you do the donating and I'll do the talking. Let me continue with what I'm doing because I like to focus on it. So this is really some nasty stuff that I'm about to show you from the Israelis. It's so emblematic of who we're dealing with, right? Okay, here, you guys see this? You should be able to see that, okay? So let's begin. So as the Israelis are invading Rafah, I want to show you a couple of clips from Israelis and their reaction to these. Well, it's multiple things, okay? The Israelis are invading Rafah, but you have some people claiming that the United States is not delivering a few crates of weapons, as if that makes any difference now, and as if that is even true. But let me show you the reaction of an Israeli politician. Look at what she has to say.
ארצות הברית מאיימת שהיא לא תיתן לנו טילים מדויקים. וואלה, יש לי חדשות לארצות הברית. יש לנו טילים לא מדויקים. ויש לנו את הזכות להתגונן. אז אולי במקום להשתמש בטיל מדויק ולהוריד חדר ספציפי, או בניין ספציפי, אני אשתמש בטילים הלא מדויקים שלי. ואני פשוט אמוטט 10 בניינים. 10 בניינים. 10 בניינים. זה מה שאני אעשה. ארצות הברית מאיימת.
Well, she didn't mince any words there. Here, I'll show you another nut job from Israel, and then an American. You're gonna love this.
צריך להיכנס בהם עד הסוף, עד שהם יצעקו את המילה חמאס.
So he's saying we need to hit everybody who even utters the name of Hamas, okay? Oh, sorry, excuse me, I misread the translation. He said we have to hit everybody hard, okay, until they're screaming the name of Hamas.
שהם יצעקו את המילה חמאס.
And then the presenter is saying, but the families of the hostages say that that if you enter Rafah, the hostages shall be executed. But we can see what they're doing. They're mocking us. And then the presenter says, well, tell me your opinion, because I don't really understand it. Explain it to me.
אני חושב שצריך להיכנס, אתמול כבר לרפיח, להיכנס,
ואז מה יקרה?
להיכנס ולהרוג.
ואז הם יצאו מתחת לאדמה.
אין שם בלתי מעורבים, צריך...
So this guy, the old guy, saying, well, you know, we should just go into Rafah and just start butchering. And then the other one says, but they're going to come out from the ground. He knows. He knows what's waiting for them. And then he says, there are no innocents in Gaza. That's what he says. There are no innocents in Gaza. We should just go in and kill, kill, kill. He says it 3 times. Kill, kill, kill.
ולהרוג, ולהרוג, ולהרוג.
הבנתי, וזה החזיר את החטופים.
ולהרוג אותם, שם צריך להרוג אותם.
ואיך יחזרו החטופים בוקר?
We should kill them before they kill us. That's what he says. Well, that's from the Talmud, actually. He's quoting the Talmud. Rise up and kill first. Which shows you again, the Israelis don't know anything about the Bible. They're not. They just use the Bible as like some kind of, you know, like like a paperweight or something. For them, it's all about the Talmud. Now, the Talmud is you know, it's not the Bible. It's something completely different. It's where the Israelis get their ideology from. He said it right now. But let me show you another clip. This is from an American, okay? This guy is Brian Mast, okay? He's in Congress. And listen to what, you know, what civilized, eloquent words he has to say to us.
Now that Hamas has agreed to a ceasefire, do you think Israel should agree?
I think Israel should go in there and kick the shit out of them. Just absolutely destroy them, their infrastructure, level anything that they touch. Clear enough?
Congressman, the world is calling for a ceasefire. You used to say Hamas won't agree to a ceasefire. Hamas had just agreed. It was a proposal put forward by Egypt, Qatar. You know, CIA Director William Burns has been there negotiating.
You know what? If there's an American hell, or somebody else being held, there should be every expectation that Americans come and kill them as well. If there's an American being held, we should go kill the people that are holding them.
Why are you so hateful?
It's not hateful.
It is, because my people are Palestinian. You're killing my people with our tax dollars. And you saying that
Those
everything
people
should
associate themselves with terrorists. They shouldn't vote terrorists into office like Hamas.
Israel is the terrorist.
Palestinian Islamic
Israel is the
Jihad,
terrorist.
Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, Lions Den, Fatah, all those terrorist
We
organizations.
say to you
that are
every
part of the
single
Palestinian
time,
people.
majority of people are children. They're the ones that are bearing the brunt.
Just because you say it doesn't make it true, though, which is what you constantly.
It's children?
Let me say this very clearly. I literally don't believe a word that you say.
Well, I think that you are a heartless, soulless, cruel man. And today is Holocaust
From you,
Remembrance Day
I'll
for
take
my
that as a
people,
compliment.
my people, Jewish people. And I am saying, as a Jew, we said never again, and it's happening now. We say
You are
never
so
again.
hateful and disgusting. It's a shame. You are a crime against.
I feel like when she said never again, he said again. I think he said, I don't know. It doesn't matter because the stuff before, you know, he really is a soulless, cruel man. And I suspect it has something to do with the fact that he's missing both his legs. And, you know, forgive me for saying this. I wouldn't say it otherwise. But he said to kick their butts or something. Well, he won't be doing much kicking, will he? And this bastard is just pissed because he lost his legs invading someone else's country in Afghanistan. And my advice to him is stay the fuck out of other people's countries, you understand? Stay the fuck out of other people's countries. You won't get your legs blown off and you won't become a mean piece of shit like you are. And in any case, you know, it's funny because he said don't vote terrorists into office, and then he paused for a second and he's like Hamas, because he realized that counts, that goes for Americans too. That's the bin Laden argument. You voted for terrorists that are bombing Afghanistan, so I'm going to bomb you. That's bin Laden's argument. He made the same one. These people are so hateful. They really are. They're really so hateful. And once again, this cyborg motherfucker should stay out of other people's countries if he wants to keep his legs. All right? Don't go invading people's countries. You won't get blown up by an IED. It's very simple, right? Because you all these people he listed, Lions Den, Fatah, they don't come to America and kill you. They stay in their country and they say, back the fuck off. And you should be thankful the Palestinians are not spiteful people. You should be thankful. You should be getting on the ground and saying, thank God Palestinians are not vengeful. Because after all this shit that's been done to them, you are in for something else, man. You are in for something else. You know what they could do to the whole planet? Because we are just letting this shit happen to them? Imagine if they were vengeful. Imagine if they were spiteful people, what they would do to us. What they would do to you, to this motherfucker. This cyborg over here. This imperialist piece of shit who is he's full of hate because somebody took his legs. Well, you took somebody's freedom. You took their land. You destroyed it. And this guy volunteered for a combat unit. And even if he didn't, there is no draft in the United States. No one forced you to go to the military and sign up for a genocidal organization, okay? The SS was also voluntary, all right? People knew exactly what they were signing up for. Don't come here and say, I didn't know. You fucking knew exactly. There's a war on, and you're going to sign up to kill people? So this guy, there's no difference between him and Israelis. I mean, they're literally one and the same. And you see her, on the left, I forgot her name. From Code Pink, Benjamin, right? She's very intelligent and she's very brave because she always goes around to these congressmen and she tells them off. Medea Benjamin, right? That's her name. Yeah, Medea Benjamin. She always goes around to Capitol Hill and she just tells these congresspeople to their faces, like, you're supporting a genocide. Why are you doing this in my name? I'm Jewish. Don't talk about committing genocide in the name of the Jewish faith. Don't talk about democracy in America. And when you're doing this, stop giving our money and buying weapons to kill people. You know, she gets it. She's very brave. She gets dragged off stage all the time because she interrupts their meetings. She's having none of it. She's having none of it. So I respect her a lot. She does great work. And this man next to her, I mean, she kept her cool a lot more than I did. You know, she's right next to him. She kept her cool a lot more. But going back to these organizations, every single one, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, that's PIJ, right? So Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, every single one of these are armed wings of the Palestinian resistance. Terrorists to who? Terrorist is someone who goes and kills civilians for no reason. And has someone done that to you, or did you go to their country? Did you attack people in their country and then they resisted? That's not terrorism. That's resistance. You come into my house and you know, Americans have all these laws for murdering someone who comes through your door, right? Like someone who walks into your house, you can just murder them. There's no proportion. It's not like in England. In England, you can't have serious bodily harm, cause serious bodily harm to someone because they broke into your house. That's not an excuse. You go to prison for killing them. You can't just murder someone because they broke in. It has to be proportionate. And this guy, and many like him in America, they think it's okay to murder someone for coming into their house. Okay, well, guess what? Palestinians have the same principle for their land. You come to their land, you're going to get shot at. Are we clear? Thank you. Goodbye. Let me show you some more ridiculous hypocrisy in a second. But first, we're going to take a look at all the children that this guy, all the innocent civilians that this guy is responsible for attacking. You know, because he doesn't like it when people take his legs, but he's okay with maiming children. You know, that's okay. So again, viewer discretion is advised. What I'm about to show you is the reality. I'm not interested in this age restriction stuff. You know, I cannot talk about this and not show you these images. You have to see them. You're not going to see them on TV. You can't see them or hear them through the radio. You have to witness them with your own eyes. These are from Rafah. These are from Gaza right now, from what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians. We're going to go through them one by one. This is a child that's going to have scars now for the rest of their life. If they haven't passed away already. They're wrapped already in you know, I couldn't see, sorry, forgive me, I couldn't see in the first second, but I can clearly see they've been martyred, they've been killed, right? They are martyrs. So this child has been killed. And here, look at what the Israelis are doing. They're just blowing up people's houses. Here, all over the place, body bags everywhere. I'm just muting it because of the music, but for those of you who are listening, you know, you can see, or rather, you would see these piles and rows of Palestinians in body bags, you know, who have been martyred, who have been killed, and it's really atrocious. It's really gut-wrenching, you know, to see that. Here, more images of Palestinians having their houses and cities blown up. You know, the worst part is that you don't even know what they're dropping. This could easily be, you know, a chemical weapon or a biological weapon. Who on earth would be there to verify that every single thing Israel have dropped is safe, as if, you know, conventional bombs are okay on Palestinians, but not WMDs. But my point is that they're not just dropping conventional ordnances and payloads. They're also dropping white phosphorus. We know for a fact from doctors that they're dropping white phosphorus. Who's to say there are no biological weapons being dropped as well? Who's to say? You can't, because no one is there to stop the Israelis. They have a blank check. Do whatever you want, you know, like the jungle. The Israelis have destroyed 47 housing units in Naqab. You can see now even these Saudi mouthpiece newspapers. I got this from Assad over here. He said a Saudi regime mouthpiece admits worse than Dresden. So even this paper called Arab News, which is a Saudi mouthpiece, is saying now that it's worse than Dresden in 1945. Okay. Now look, I don't like these comparisons with Dresden because when we're talking about Dresden, and today's 8th of May, it's VE Day, the Nazis started that shit. Okay. Two world wars from the Germans. And to this day, you have people debating whether Dresden was a strategic, military target or not. I don't care. Those were Nazis. You can't compare Nazis to Palestinians. What did Palestinians do to deserve something like Dresden or less than Dresden or more than Dresden? What is a stupid comparison? You can't compare these two things, okay? Even if you think the Germans deserve Dresden, you can't compare that to Palestinians. What have they done? Here you got more action.
منذ قليل من رفح الفلسطينية، حيث أفاد مراسلنا بوقوع تبادل لإطلاق النار بين حماس وإسرائيل بالقرب من بوابة معبر رفح في الجانب الفلسطيني. وأشار مراسلنا إلى أن طائرات الاحتلال تنفذ أحزمة نارية عنيفة في محيط معبر رفح البري في الجانب الفلسطيني. وأشار إلى استشهاد وإصابة عدد من المواطنين الفلسطينيين جراء قصف الاحتلال منزلا في منطقة أرض البراهمة بحي تل السلطان.
So these are images from Rafah, and there's more over here. So, if you think any of this if you think any of this is viable or safe for civilians like Biden was claiming, I mean, you're out of your mind. Who gets to decide that this is okay? Who gets to decide that? Just because Joe Biden thinks, oh well, this is a good attack plan. Fuck you. Who said you make the decision to attack someone else's country? Screw you. Can we also just openly talk about attacking American cities? Is it okay if I go and plan, with some Palestinians, like we talk about, we get on a podium in a press conference and say, yeah, we will launch the attack of Austin, Texas with the Mexicans next week. This is a good plan. What the fuck? Like the stones on these people. Now, look at this. Look at this. I'm gonna mute it just from the music. You can see this child, all the skin is gone. That's what Joe Biden does. That's what Lloyd Austin does. That's what the United States do. Okay, that's what Israel do. This is their contribution to humanity. Yeah. This is what Blinken is responsible for, yeah, with his diplomacy. Very, very good diplomacy. More people passed away, more martyrs. Just...
واجعل أولادي في الفردوس الأعلى يا رب العالمين. يا رب تقبلهم يا الله. يا رب جبرك يا رب. يا رب جبرك يا رب.
So for those of you who are not looking but listening, you can see two Palestinian children laying dead there under the rubble inside their house. And they're very clearly lifeless. Blood all over the face, dust, concrete. This is This is what it looks like to do surgery in a combat zone, in a genocide. This is American democracy. You know, it's very easy to what I was going to say is that it's very easy to understand when you see these sorts of things why people then dislike the West, because this is their or even let's say if you're Palestinian, what interactions do you have with Jewish people? The only Jewish people that you see are firing guns at you. So even the Israelis, by virtue of occupying Palestinian land, they generate anti-Semitism, because this is like they're holding up a flag with the Jewish star on it, and they're saying we are the Jewish state. And what is the relationship between us? We kill you, we starve you, we bomb you. Here's a child who had a battery removed from their stomach because they were so hungry they ate a battery. And this is from the account of a surgeon from Oman who's in Gaza. And he extracted this from the child. Okay, so it's a battery for a watch. That's how hungry people are. You understand? Now, obviously, you can come and say that a child might eat a battery. Sorry, no. You can see the bite marks on this thing. This is a genocide. People are starving. You know, out of the two situations, which one is it? Likely the child was starving. That's what's more likely.
امشي ارض الله واسعه الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم لك الحمد حتى ترضى يا رب ولك الحمد يا رب.
You saw this is from the Palestinian ambassador at the UN, and he posted this video from Gaza. You see the rubble is destroyed. I mean, all the buildings are destroyed. It's destruction everywhere. And the child says, "Where can we go? Where can we go?" And the mother replies, "Walk. God's land is vast. Praise to God." So that's a reason why you have a lot of people who respect the Palestinians and their faith, because even in the worst conditions, they are still able to remain steadfast. And so one other thing that I'll show you. This is from Professor Asad Abu Khalil. I interviewed him a few weeks ago. Please go watch it. He posted this photo of the children in Gaza, and he said they will grow up fast and they will exact justice. So these children that you see today, like this one here, he will grow up and he will exact justice. Some might say exact vengeance. I'm not going to get into a debate now about which is which, but they will certainly take what is theirs. I mean, the scenes are horrible. What do you want me to say? What can I say that I haven't said already? This is all that matters. These children, they will grow up, they will join the resistance, and they will make mincemeat out of the Israelis. That's what's going to happen. And you see it already today. You see it already today. Every generation gets stronger and stronger. You want to kill the Hamas leader? Yeah, go ahead. You'll just make Hamas stronger. You can go ahead and take all of Rafah and erase Hamas, and there will be another organization that pops up and is even stronger and even better than Hamas. And they will wipe the floor with you like they're doing now, even more. Mark my words. Mark my words. It's not like something that I want or I don't want. I'm just telling you a geopolitical reality. Okay, this is a geopolitical reality. Israel can go into Rafah, they can take all of Gaza, they can erase Hamas from the face of the earth. Another organization will come out even stronger than Hamas and wipe the floor with the Israelis. That's it. It's not me or what, you know, I'm just a messenger. I really am. I'm just a messenger. I'm telling you what is to come. Okay? If they do that, of course. Right now, it's already not looking good. You know, I don't fancy their chances of erasing Hamas. They can't even complete one objective. One lousy objective. The Israelis have control of the whole strip now, right, on the surface. They can't free a single hostage other than the 3 they took. And the 60 they've killed, what about them? And the rest are in captivity. What have they done? Where are their hostages? Where is the defeated Hamas that they promised? Where is the defeated infrastructure that they promised? Nothing, 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 nothing. Zero. So you should understand something. These images are very difficult to look at. They are very, you know, gut-wrenching, but the road to victory is built on their blood. Do you understand? It's not like they died and they died for nothing. No. You misunderstand. These people, and I know it's easy for me to say that, I know, but you have to understand that for me, this is like watching, you know, someone in my family being killed. You know, these are Palestinians, Syrians, there's no difference. So it's very hard for me to watch it too, but the victory, the ultimate victory is going to come because of them. It's not for nothing, okay? It's not for nothing. They didn't die for nothing. And those of them who are alive, you know, the whole world is marching behind them. The whole world supports them. They have, you know, they don't have the weight of the world on their shoulders. They also have the world behind them. Okay, so you have to look at the positive as well as the negative. But again, it's very difficult. I mean, what can you say after these images? What can you say after this? Really, what is left to say? I think it's best to keep these things in mind. Right? They will grow up fast. They will exact justice. I'll show you some hypocrisy here, which is really difficult to digest because you're not going to believe this story. You really won't. But given how things are going, some of you might. So there's a surgeon from Gaza who was tortured to death by the Israelis. They kidnapped him in January. He was working at Al-Auda hospital, and they tortured him for 4 months, and he finally gave in, rather gave out, and passed away a few days ago. Okay, he's a very brilliant surgeon. Okay, Dr. Adnan Al-Bursh, a very, very renowned surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, and he was trained in England at King's College London at KCL. So, you know, this is, again, it's very disturbing to see this news, because it's like, even I was trying to come up with a word. I was trying to come up with a word to describe this, because the Israelis target doctors. Do you understand? And iatro is the ancient Greek word for doctor or healer. Now, when you say iatrocide, it already has a meaning. It means that a patient died at the hands of a doctor, right? But that's not what we're trying to describe here. I'm trying to repurpose the word. I'm trying to take that word and give it a new meaning, which is what Israel is doing, which is to attack and kill doctors, specifically targeting doctors. And this is not a trend. It's a matter of policy with the Israelis. You have doctors in Gaza, when they finish work, do you know what they do? They don't walk out of the hospital in their scrubs, proud that they're doctors. They literally have to take off all of the scrubs, the clothes that they're wearing in the hospital, okay? Gowns, etc. They take off the clothes and put on normal civilian clothes so the Israelis don't see them and target them because they're doctors. You understand? So they have to hide the fact that they are healers from the Israelis, lest they murder them. And so this man was killed, and you know, you would think that the university that trained him would care, you would think that the education establishment in England would care just for the fact that this man was trained in England. Just for that, you know? Forget he's a Palestinian. We don't care about Palestinians. He's alumni. Do we care that he was tortured to death? No. No, nothing. He's not a human being. He's not a doctor. He's not a Palestinian. Like every single thing that gives him value is discarded, right? Because we don't upset the Israelis that tortured him, right? So we allow torture. And so his friend is also a doctor, Ghassan Abu Sita, and here it gets better. His friend Ghassan Abu Sita was going to Germany to talk at an event for Palestinians, and he finds out that when he gets to the passport control that he's banned from entering Germany. And they lied to him. They told him he's banned for entering for 1 month, for the month of April, okay? So the next month, it's May, and he tries to go to France to the Senate because he's been invited by the Green Party in the Senate to testify about what he has seen in Gaza as a doctor, as a surgeon. And he gets to the passport control, to the customs, and he finds out he's been banned for 1 year from entering the Schengen zone in Europe. So he can't go to France, he can't go to Austria, he can't go to Germany. Banned for 1 year. For what? Well, we all know why. Because the Israelis control Germany, the Zionist interests control Germany, especially Germany, in addition to the UK. These are the two places in Europe where they exert the most control, and they want to stop him from talking about what Israel has done in Gaza. I showed you just a few minutes ago this doctor who extracted a battery from a child who was starving to death. Okay? This is one story. There are tons and tons and tons of these horrific events. This is nothing compared to what these people have witnessed. You know, operating on children whose limbs have been blown off. You know, just the worst stuff imaginable. So they banned him. Right? And then they tweet this stuff. So the German Foreign Office then say a free and diverse press landscape is the cornerstone of every liberal democracy. In times of conflict, especially, it is crucial to protect the freedom of the press. It is of crucial importance to protect the freedom of the press. The decision of the Israeli authorities to shut down Al Jazeera in Israel is the wrong signal. So he said, when your hypocrisy reaches psychotic levels, total dissonance in the official German brain. Yes. So they talk about how bad it is to ban Al Jazeera while they are banning a doctor from speaking in the French Senate in a different country. Wow. So this is when he tweeted, I'm at Charles de Gaulle Airport. They are preventing me from entering France. I'm supposed to speak at the French Senate today. They say the Germans put a 1-year ban on my entry to Europe. So do you know what happens next? They not only humiliated him by muzzling him like a dog and dehumanizing him, but on top of that, they march him with a bunch of guards to a holding cell inside the airport. And then he has to talk to the French Senate through his lawyer's video camera on his phone, excuse me. So he does a video call through his lawyer's phone inside the jail cell, inside the airport. Let me repeat that. They ban him from entering France. He's marched to a prison cell in the airport, and he's given his lawyer's phone, and that is the only way he's able to speak to the Senate. And on top of that, they had to fight. They had to get a bunch of lawyers to fight the Home Office just for even have him speak for something that was already scheduled weeks before. This is what it looked like. You see that? So they say here, grâce à la mobilisation d'avocats, nous avons pu obtenir un lien en visioconférence avec Ghassan Abu Sita. So, you know, thanks to a team of lawyers essentially helping out. That's the only way. Otherwise, that's it, deportation. And they deported him. So afterwards, they marched him to, I think they transferred him from, I don't know if they transferred him to another airport, doesn't matter, but they deported him back to England, essentially, right? And keep in mind, this guy teaches at Glasgow University. He's a top doctor, you know? He's a top doctor. Just scandalous, honestly, scandalous. So this is in The Guardian, right? And the headline says, Gaza war surgeon feels criminalized after being denied entry to France. You know, honestly, I would have chosen a different title. I would have said, Israelis pressure German government to ban Gaza doctor from testifying, because that's what happened. That's the truth. That is the headline. So he was stripped of his possessions, taken to a holding cell, and deported to the UK. During October and November 2023, at the beginning of Israel's war in Gaza, which has since killed more than 34,000 Palestinians, Abu Sitta operated from Al-Shifa and Al-Ahli hospitals. During his 43 days, he described witnessing a massacre unfold in Gaza and the use of white phosphorus munitions, which Israel has denied. Israel can go to hell. Abu Sitta has since provided evidence to Scotland Yard and the International Criminal Court, ICC, in The Hague. So Scotland Yard is the, well, it's the police in England, right? So investigate criminal matters. So he's testified and provided evidence to both the UK police, so in London, and also to ICC. I know for some people it might be confusing. It says Scotland Yard. Why is it in London? It just is, okay? So in any case, he intends to challenge his ban in the German courts and is considering going to the European Court of Human Rights. It is clear to us that there is an organized, this is from his lawyer, it is clear to us that there is an organized attempt to discredit medical witnesses, and in particular Professor Ghassan, from providing details about the consequences of Israel's military action in Gaza. So Abu Sitta said the only reason the Germans would want a European-wide ban is to stop me from getting to The Hague. You understand now? It's not just the Senate in France. They don't want him to get to The Hague physically. It communicates to me the complete complicity of the German government in the genocidal war. There you go. So we have reached this stage a long time ago, to be honest, but we reached the stage where they are scared of a doctor because the doctor treated patients who are victims of Israel's war crimes. And the doctor happens to be British and can travel in Europe. So they get European countries to ban him. I mean, I've never seen such vicious shit in my life, really. I know it seems so simple compared to like what the things they're doing in Gaza, but it's not. It's all connected. It's all connected. This shows you how tiny and scared and weak and pathetic and scrawny the Israelis are. They will never be more than a bunch of fucking murderers. And they're so afraid of people finding out they have to even humiliate a doctor, just a fucking doctor, from giving testimony, giving evidence. That's how pathetic they are. That's how scrawny they are. Forgive me, just one correction. I wanted to say this was the statement over here. This was from the director of the International Center of Justice for Palestinians. Okay, just this quote right there. And again, I couldn't agree more, you know? This is an organized attempt to discredit medical witnesses, and in particular Professor Ghassan, from providing details about the consequences of Israel's military action in Gaza. So let me read some donations to you, some comments and questions. Let me answer them. We have some here from Photos. Thank you very much. And another one from Jérôme, who says donation. Thank you, Jérôme. And we have another contribution from Gonzalez, who says, thank you for keeping it 100. The arms race that will come if Israel is successful in this genocide will make everything from the past look like child's play in World War III. World War III and the end of all life won't just be a possibility, but it will be a certain inevitability. The League of Nations failed in similar ways, and all hell broke loose right after. There's no excuse when this is so well documented. Yeah, and then they passed on those failures to the UN in a lot of ways. So I see what you're getting at, and it's they are all very cowardly. You know, they really are. You're right to point out the aspect of arms race, because the Israelis, they like to test a lot of weapons on people in Gaza and Palestine, and then they market these weapons as battle tested, you know, or battle proven. Well, it's not really a battle. It's more like it's massacre proven, if you will. Thank you, Celtic Ali, for the nice comment, and thank you to all of you, really, and I appreciate your support. Again, I'll remind you guys, please donate to the channel if you can through PayPal. You can also join on Patreon, and I would be most appreciative, because, you know, they demonetize the channel. The only way I used to make a living is through YouTube. So they took that away, and now basically every month I'm losing my main income because I told the truth about Israel and October 7th, and it pisses them off. So yeah, if you can donate on Patreon or PayPal, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. I do owe a crab dance, actually. There was, I think, Serene who joined. Yes. We have Serene and also Rosie and Bashalani. So thank you to all of you. And this crab dance is for you, and then we'll continue.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you. والله انت كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China. 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 China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Why attack Sanders? Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Thank you, Dean for Truth, who says, oh, we tried to talk them down from genocide. We told them not to. They don't feel obligated to stop first-degree mass murder. They ought to say they can't be bothered. It's objectively a crime. Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You know, all of you, you really get it. You really get it. And honestly, you guys, please try and share the videos. Friends, family, coworkers, whoever you think that you can convert. Well, it's not really convert. You're not trying to change them. You're just trying to open their eyes. Please do, because it's a worldwide battle. We've got people who are zombies, who have been brainwashed by the mainstream media, and then we've got everybody else. We need to wake them up. Please help me do that by sharing the videos. You serve society by doing that. If you think this is gonna help you like get someone to understand a particular aspect, it doesn't even have to be about Palestine. It could be something I did about Niger, for example. Any form of imperialism in the world, French, American, doesn't matter. Send them the videos, you know, get them to understand the issues. It really will help. I hope so, at least. That's my objective. So I tell you very clearly what I'm trying to do and how you can help me do it. And that's it. So it's you know, exactly what it says on the tin, right? Nothing else. So let me just show you something. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you in detail about the latest developments on the front lines, okay? So, as you know, I love doing battle reports, okay? We'll call them that. So give me a second. Give me a second. I've got so much to show you that you can actually you can actually get a little lost. So just give me a second to put everything in order, because I don't know why it's gone haywire. So hold on. This is over here. That's weird. Okay. Yes. So one second, okay? Just give me a few seconds. You know, it's funny, in the past, I used to take like giant breaks. You know, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to the toilet. I need to get something to eat. Just wait. And then we would just keep the live stream going. But now I've got thousands of people watching. I can't do that. Man, really, that was fun. That was fun. I mean, unless you guys would be cool, of course. In that case, I would be more than happy to take an extended break. But I'm on the clock right now, right? So, no, but honestly, how many of you were tuned in for the old live streams? Because you know, I'm happy we've got so many new subscribers, and those of you who are not subscribed, you know what to do. But how many of you used to watch the old ones? Like, I mean, when from the very beginning? It's not that long ago, is it? It's like, what, few years, 3 years? Okay, give me a second, because I've got a lot of things here to show you. So we're gonna start with Lebanon. Man, you know, I saw, sorry, I forgot to tell you something about the doctor we were just talking about, Ghassan Abu Sitta. So it's something you should know. And again, you're gonna laugh at this. So there's a German a journalist who goes up to the government, okay? So basically the equivalent of the German Home Office. And they asked him, why did you ban this doctor from coming into Germany, and then why did you give him a European-wide ban so he can't go into France? And I'll have the video translated afterwards so you can see it, right? I'll translate it from German to English. It's actually from Florian. He's the one who went and asked the question. So yeah, I'll have it up here with his name, and he basically exposes them. Yeah, Florian Warwick. So he exposes how stupid they are and malevolent, because they can't answer the question. The question is like, why did you do this? And they say, well, you know, you shouldn't ask us. You should maybe ask those authorities. And it's like playing ping pong with someone, you know? You're just like sending them back and forth to authorities. It's such German bureaucracy, you know what I mean? And they love bureaucracy. So yeah, I'll have that in there for you afterwards. But yeah, we'll talk about Lebanon now, okay? Speaking of Al-Shifa, Hospital, where these doctors have both worked, they just discovered another mass grave at Al-Shifa Hospital. So I've lost count, and you'll forgive me. I don't know whether this is the second, the third, the fourth, or the fifth. I mean, it might be even more in the future, right? But this is definitely not the first mass grave discovered, and definitely not the first at Al-Shifa. So at least 50 people discovered in this grave. Really, just, you know, it's like you don't finish, you know, you finish with one atrocity, and then you barely have time to reel from that before you're hit with another one, you know? So, okay, let's proceed. You guys can see this all right? Okay. So allow me to give you the latest battle report. These are all of the significant events leading up to May 8th. Okay, so all of the significant events on the front line in the last week. Everything that's happened in the Gaza war, which, as you all know, does not only extend to Gaza. So we'll begin with the first one. Hezbollah, on May 3rd, they struck Israeli positions. Forgive me if I'll just start again. So Hezbollah, on May 3rd, they struck Israeli positions at Shtullah, which is an Israeli settlement. And I've planned all of these out on the maps for you. Sorry, I've plotted all of these out on the map for you. Can you guys see where this is over here? Okay, so that's the border with Lebanon. That's the border with Lebanon, the so-called border, the imaginary line that some Europeans drew. And there's Shtullah. All right, so we'll begin there. Here's the footage from the strike. These are ATGMs, okay, so anti-tank guided missiles. So for those of you who are listening but not watching, I'll describe the scene to you as you asked me to do in the past. So there's a house. So this is a house in an Israeli settlement being struck by a Hezbollah anti-tank guided missile. And this is a building that's been used by Israeli soldiers. Okay, and the Israelis will then go and scream to you, exactly what they accuse the Palestinians of doing, they do themselves. They say the Palestinians, they're packing fighters into a residential building. No one ever does that. I mean, make up your minds. Are Hamas underground or above ground? Which one is it? But in any case, the Israelis most certainly, and I've shown you video evidence of this, how they will literally walk, the Israeli soldiers, you see them walking into the building, setting up camp in the building, and then being hit. They're under surveillance the whole time. So yeah, the Israelis absolutely build these as covers, and even then they're illegal settlements. So, what difference does it make? The settlers are all armed. The barracks are inside the settlement. The settlement itself is a violation of international law. I mean, we have like, you're dealing with a serial offender here. So that's number one. That's Shtulla settlement. Then we had Matullah. I know, lovely names, right? You could go ask the, So this is from Channel 13, the Israeli Channel 13. They said that 2 Israeli soldiers were seriously injured. Other Israeli outlets then said that it was 2 soldiers killed, not injured, and that a 3rd was wounded in a strike. Hold on, here's the footage. So this was on the map. We're talking now about this location, okay? So we're moving from Shtulla over to Mtalla, so over here, okay? And this was on May the 7th, okay? So just yesterday. Multiple things going on here. So what happened is that Hezbollah, they used a bunch of drones. They fired drones at Israeli positions, and the Israelis failed to intercept the drones. So you see constant failures on the Lebanese front, where the Iron Dome is not working. It's not even activated. There's nothing being shot down. Nothing being fired, never mind shot down. And then you have the Israeli jets, the F-15s, completely inept and unable to intercept any ordinances launched by Hezbollah. There's even footage of the F-15 in this particular instance trying to chase the drone and then failing to intercept it, right? So there's the F-15, okay? And here, I'll show you the video as well. I mean, F-15 is an aged fighter, but it should still be able to get a drone. So there, he's fired off the missiles, and they didn't hit squat. So then, as I said, we have the Israeli channels confirming that the drone killed multiple Israeli soldiers, and there were 6 drones fired in total, okay? And this is in the Upper Galilee. Only 1 was intercepted out of the 6. All of the drones, the other drones hit their targets, and the Israelis tried to intercept, but failed. Here, and I'll show you video of the drone hitting the target. You can see how, so it hit a gathering of Israelis, right? Here it is. It's falling down and then exploding. You can see, like, right there, barely at the edge of the screen, there's a small explosion, okay? I'll fast forward it right there. Do you see it? So it's funny because I found a video. I was searching through and I found a video where you see the first ever drone delivered to Hezbollah personally, to Hassan Nasrallah by Iran. This is back in 1999. Okay, the Muhajir 2, and they filmed it and everything. Right, look at this. Again, I'm just muting it for copyright reasons, but you see the VCR time code in the bottom right corner. Just amazing, you know. This is real VCR footage. So yeah, the first one delivered, and look how far they've come. You know, the Americans, they think that they have the best drone technology, and what do they use it for? Well, killing civilians. So, not, you know, what kind of an achievement is that? But over time, Iran have become the best producer of drones, and they literally helped the Russians win the war in Ukraine because of the drones. Don't forget that. Right now, the Israelis and Americans are being screwed in this Gaza war on multiple fronts by drones that were built by Iran. Never forget that. So the third Hezbollah strike, this was on Kiryat Shmona. Again, the best names. So you can see here on the map, this is the third target that I've plotted here for you, number 3. And again, just to zoom out, that's Lebanon. And I'm going in chronological order, okay? And you can see here how they fired these Katyusha rockets. Again, Katyusha is especially fitting. We talk about that today on VE Day. It's a ingenious Russian invention. You know, you get a truck and fire rockets from the back of the truck. And of course, they've built upon that since World War II, but it's known as Stalin's organs. That's a nickname for it. And yeah, it's a noise that terrified German soldiers, and now it terrifies Nazis, who are called Israelis. Yeah, so you can see how the whole settlement is up in smokes. And let me try and put this diplomatically. The Israelis thought that they will simply, leave Europe, walk into Palestine or Syria, and, steal people's houses, and that nothing will happen. The Arabs are the Native Americans that just so happened to have the right technology at the right time to teach colonizers a lesson. You see, the Native Americans, they were much more unfortunate, and they tried to resist the theft of their land. Every single treaty that they ever agreed upon was a lie or broken by the European settlers. Well, the Arabs are having none of it. And so the Americans and Israelis will try as much as they can, you know, like the big bad wolf to enter the house, but it's not coming down. It's getting stronger and stronger. And let me show you some of the footage. These were filmed by Israeli settlers in this very settlement themselves, right, in Kiryat Shmona. So you can see the destruction. This guy had an Israeli flag painted on his Jeep. Well, he won't be driving it anywhere soon.
זה הרכב שנפגע. זה הרכב שנפגע. זה הרכב.
You know, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is not nice to look at or anything. No one is gloating. But you have to understand that these images, you know, this is nothing compared to what the Arabs have to endure under the Israelis. You know, this is, they had a few windows broken. What are people in Gaza supposed to say? What are people in Damascus supposed to say? Well, what are they supposed to say when they get bombed almost every day, every week by Israelis? Or people in Lebanon, right? Since we're talking about the Lebanese front. What are they supposed to say? They not only have their houses destroyed, they have their families killed, they have to go live in a refugee camp in a tent. I mean, like, no, Israelis are not oppressed people. They are the oppressors. Are we clear about this? Yes, Jews were oppressed in Europe. What does that have to do with Arabs? Did Arabs do that? No. Go complain to the Europeans then. We're talking about the Middle East. In the Middle East, the Israelis, who claim to be Jewish, they are the oppressors, okay? And no matter what they say, they are the ones oppressing Arabs and killing them in large quantities, displacing them. You know, they have no moral standing whatsoever. They have nothing to complain about. If they don't like it, go back to Europe. Go back to Morocco. You know, it's not the problem of Arabs to figure out where Israelis have to go. Just like the Algerians, it's not their duty to figure out where French settlers have to go. If you invade someone's country, they're going to fight back. And especially when you try diplomacy and they don't want to figure out any solution with you, and they just keep lying, and they use diplomacy as a delay tactic. I mean, you know, you're dealing with the most powerful, well, used to be the most powerful government, the United States, backing the Israelis. So it's not like, you know, there's some kind of imbalance of power here on the American or the Israeli side, rather against their favor. On the contrary, there's an imbalance in their favor, in the favor of the Americans and the Israelis. They have all the weapons and all the power, and they've been doing whatever they want for the last 75 years, screwing people, killing people, displacing them. So they can't come here now and start, you know, shedding crocodile tears and saying that they're so oppressed. They're not. They're absolutely not. It's just that now the resistance have finally caught up. They have the right equipment. They have the right amount of people and the tactics. Everything is smart, you know, from a military standpoint, from a military strategic viewpoint. The Israelis are losing on all these fronts because they don't know how to contend with Hezbollah. They don't know where Hezbollah's advanced weapons are. They haven't even used them yet in this war. So, you know, these things that we're showing you, a Katyusha, as I said, is from World War II. And yet, nevertheless, the Israelis, they can't do anything against it. What are you going to do against a bunch of rockets? You know, that are fired at you from the northern front when you're busy with the southern front. What are you going to do? Or these drones that you're unable to shoot down. You can shoot down one, but the other 5 get through. You can't win. You can't win. Here's more of the destruction from this settlement. So this is just CCTV footage of the rockets coming down. You know, again, it's difficult to look at this and then say like, oh my God, it's you know, they're suffering or something. No, they're not. Compare this to the 2,000-pound bombs that the Israelis are dropping on hospitals, on all form of infrastructure in Palestine and Gaza, and then on people there. You know, we are talking about completely different ordinances and completely different tactics. They're incomparable. The politics is also different. What is the goal of the Israelis? The goal is genocide and ethnic cleansing. Take all the land. The goal of the Arabs is to get back the land stolen from them. So we're talking about resistance. You can't compare these two things, right? Now I'll go to the Iraqi front. Let me transition to the Iraqi front and show you what the Iraqi resistance have been up to, because they are also formidable, just from a purely objective viewpoint. They really are, in their firepower and their capabilities. We're not talking about the same Iraqi resistance from 20 years ago, if it even existed in this form, which it didn't. The Iraqi resistance 20 years ago was too busy fighting American occupation to think about Palestine, but now it's in a place where it can deal with both. And they're attacking the American bases, but also focusing on hitting targets in Palestine. So I'll show you here some footage of them launching several strikes against the Israelis, okay? And these are cruise missiles, okay, that they're launching, cruise missiles. And I've plotted the course for you. Now, this is me just assuming that they're firing from this is me just assuming that they're firing from Al-Bukamal. So basically, this is an area where you have a lot of resistance fighters, all right? You will typically have them concentrated in this area. It's not the only place, of course, but it's a crossing point between Syria and Iraq that's used a lot. So I just, for the sake of, you know, plotting a course, I put one there. If you want, we can be less, you know, liberal with the ruler and put it down here at 447. So my point is that from the distance traveled here is at least 447 kilometers, because they were hitting a target in occupied Palestine that the Israelis called Be'er Sheva, okay? So let's just say it's 447, okay? It traveled at least 450 kilometers to hit the target. Here's the video. I mean, to be honest, if I saw a cruise missile in front of me launching, I'd also maybe scream like that. You know, that must be deafening to listen to. I mean, you know, it's really a formidable sight. And so, like I said, that traveling this distance, at least, this is the most conservative estimate. Look how far they've come, quite literally. Do you understand what we're looking at here? This is a different resistance that the Israelis have never seen before. They have never had to face strikes from Yemen, drones and cruise missiles coming from Yemen, coming from Iraq, coming from Syria, coming from Iran. I mean, this is unprecedented. It really is. So you have to understand the importance of it. The Israelis are not ready for this. They never thought this would happen, and yet here we are. So they're not in a winning position whatsoever. That's about it for Iraq and Lebanon. But there's one more thing I want to show you, which is really which really takes the cake. Now this is from the West Bank, because people forget about the West Bank. Here, give me a second to pull this up. So it's a rather short video, but nevertheless, it was filmed about 2 days ago, so on May the 7th or May the 6th. Yeah, May 7th on camera, and here it is. So that's a bulldozer. It's a D9, which the Israelis love using for a wide array of purposes. They don't just use them in Gaza. On the contrary, the place you would see them the most before October 7 was actually the West Bank, because they would go and attack, Nablus, for example, or they would go and attack Jenin, and all these refugee camps spread across the West Bank. And And they would do what Hamas did on October 7th, similar to that. They would raid a village or raid a settlement or a town or refugee camp, kidnap people, don't even know why, and then shoot up anyone who resists. So that's why I bring this up, because it's important to remember the Israelis have been doing this for decades. No one said a word. No one gave a crap when they kidnapped Palestinians and shot up their towns. And then on top of that, they brought the bulldozers like this one, the D9, to rip up the roads. So they would just destroy, they destroy, for example, a theater that was there for the youth, very famous one in the West Bank in Jenin. And then they would rip up the cement road. Okay, so they would rip it up and cement up a well, for example. While they're ripping up the road, they would cement up a well so you can't use the well and extract water from it, and then just destroy infrastructure to make life hell for Palestinians. So really unnecessary, just purely brutal behavior to terrorize Palestinians. So the youth use it. Okay, destroy it. This is crucial for drinking water. Destroy it. Rip up the road so your cars can't drive. Ambulances also can't reach you then because the tarmac has been destroyed. Disgusting behavior, and it's all captured on camera, right? I've shown it to you a million times. They'll also block an ambulance, for example. Just really horrific stuff. So this guy over here, well, I don't think we can. I think it's safe to say he didn't make it. Bulldozers are a tool of oppression against Palestinians. They use them to destroy people's houses too, right? That's again a colonial law from the British mandate in Palestine. So from the Defense Emergency Regulations, that you can just destroy someone's house for no reason. Just destroy it, It's a form of collective punishment, right? Because to do that to one person is bad to begin with, but they do it en masse, and they make Palestinians destroy their own houses sometimes. Like you have to otherwise pay a fine if you don't destroy it yourself. So basically, you have to pay the Israelis money, like to thank them for destroying your home. Think about that. Think about that, and then you'll understand why people fire cruise missiles from Iraq. No, but seriously, it's really a wicked tool of oppression. We're not going to get anywhere if you don't, or people don't understand what is happening in Palestine. We're just talking about the truth. It's not an opinion. It's not a subjective thing. It's just what is happening there. Are the Israelis doing these things? Yes, they are. And what kind of reaction does that cause? It makes people unhappy. It kills them. It destroys their lives, and therefore they resist. It's a normal reaction. It's not, my opinion or somebody else's opinion or your opinion. This is just a natural, a natural response to the Israelis' actions, to America's actions. Nothing more, nothing less, right? You can find examples of this throughout history. Someone is invaded, they are occupied, therefore they resist. What do you expect? So again, thanks to all of you for your donations. I'll read some of them to you. We've got one here over from Mark, who says, "Keep up the great work. Really appreciate your podcast." Thank you, Mark. And we have another one here from, another Mark who just joined on Patreon. So I'll have to play Mark a crab dance. So everybody, please give him a round of applause, and then we'll continue.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you. والله في كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large.
we got him.
Because
because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Get up.
Oh!
Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why attack Sanders? Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it! I yield my time! Fuck you!
Thank you all very much. And there's also a comment from Barbara who says, how can I donate? There's PayPal, Patreon, and GoFundMe. I've pasted all the links in the chat, and they are also in the video description. And I'm grateful for all of your support. Thank you, because they are, basically punishing me for telling the truth about Israel. Let me show you something from UNRWA, from the UN, and really just a few videos about what's happening there, okay? So this is footage from today, and you can see how the Israelis are attacking UNRWA in Jerusalem, and, just out of spite. There's no reason, but they just want to storm the headquarters and destroy everything. Here, take a look. Jesus. Look at these nut jobs. Look at these nut jobs. I mean, like, this is what, when you're saying Palestinians and Israelis should live next to each other, well, first of all, you have to ask the Israelis to stop living on top of Palestinians. That's number one. But you're basically asking Palestinians to live next to these psychopaths who literally want to destroy and eradicate them, and have done nothing but destroy and eradicate them since 1945. So basically, coming in mass waves of emigration from Europe, already end of 19th century, and then 1948, the Nakba begins properly, and then they've been doing it ever since. And even the aid organizations, even the UN are attacked. This, if you know the region, this is no surprise to you that the Israelis behave like this, that they attack everyone, the doctors, the journalists, the humanitarian workers, the health workers, everybody, UN, it doesn't matter to them. They don't care. It's like, you're in my way of stealing this land, I'm going to kill you. That's their thinking. I want this land. I'm a European settler, I want the land. Really just look at this. I mean, again, I'm going to play this again. Look, listen to this banging. And then Israelis and Americans, these white Europeans, they want to go around the world saying like, oh, look how civilized we are. We're surrounded by these Arabs. Excuse you? Look at your behavior, first of all. You want to talk about civilization? Look at this. Look at this mob mentality, this revolting, like, settler colonial mentality of stealing other people's things. Unbelievable, I'll play you another clip. I'll go back to the UN in a second, but I just want to show you this clip because I came across it a few moments ago. This is from an Egyptian channel, and you can hear what the Israelis are saying behind her. They're trying to mock her and stop her broadcasting.
المركبات وأمام الممرات وأمام المركبات قاموا
أو أنهم يتحدثون عن الموافقة على الصفقة.
المركبات وأمام.
So death to Arabs. See that? Death to Arabs. This is, something they love to chant, right? And then they say that they are oppressed. So they say death to Arabs, and then they claim the Arabs are oppressing us. Oh no. Yeah, okay. Do you hear people who are protesting for Palestine saying things like this, like death to Jews? No. But the Israelis happily say it, you know, death to Arabs. They happily say this. And if they see someone who's Jewish who is protesting for Palestine, they will even say, I hope they rape you. You know, like the wildest thing that you wouldn't even imagine, that you wouldn't even think to say. I'll show you, going back to Anarwa, this is in Gaza now. I'm jumping from Jerusalem to Gaza, okay? So the first clip, this was in Gaza. Excuse me, this was in Jerusalem. Now we're in Gaza. I'll let her tell you what's up.
There were 20 to 30,000 people sheltering here and had to leave almost immediately. They were not able to take anything with them. You'll see behind me and all around there are children's clothes, shoes, toothbrushes, hairbrushes. Everything's just abandoned and was left here. People were living here, they were sheltering here. They felt safe here in this UNRWA facility, and they were given next to no notice to evacuate and had to leave almost immediately. They left everything behind. You can really feel the haste that people had to leave.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw her. I saw this video, and you know, I was thinking not just of the human toll, obviously, but look at the environmental damage that this does. You know, you would think that all these Green Party and you know, people who care about the environment, that they would care also about this. You can't deny that this is bad for the environment. If you don't care about human beings, first of all, maybe you care about the environment, right? Maybe that's your priority. I don't know why, but okay. You know, you can care about both, right? So care about both. Go ahead and talk about this, because in all of these Green parties in Europe, they're really liberal fronts. They don't care about the environment and they don't care about human beings. That's really the gist of it. When it comes to imperialism, they're fully on board. Look at the foreign minister, the German foreign minister, if we can even call her that, who pretends to be a diplomat. She's from the Green Party, and she is, you know, like she's Dick Cheney. There is no difference between her foreign policy and Dick Cheney or John McCain or Barack Obama or George Bush. They're all the same shit. She is, you know, she marches in lockstep. You would think maybe she cares about this. You know, who's going to clean this up? What impact is this going to have on people's lives? What about the white phosphorus? What weapons are being used here that will give people problems afterwards, like they did in Fallujah? Do you care about that? Nothing. So, you know, this is unfortunate, because the people who are on the ground like her, you know, they are risking their lives. They're doing lots of important work. And then the message gets here and it's ignored by the establishment. They just don't care. We don't want to listen to UN. We don't want to listen to doctors who've, you know, people have been there. No, let's just keep sending weapons and keep making money. You know, I don't know. I'm thinking she must be really hot. She's wearing a cap and the UN helmet. I've got mine from my parents over here. Hold on. This is my parents' one, UN helmet. But, you know, for the Israelis, for them, UN is a target. You know, just like the doctors, just like the journalists, they don't understand neutrality. Like I said before, it's like, we want to take this land. If you're in our way, we'll kill you. This is Israel's mantra. Do you guys, I want to ask you something, if whether you guys follow Eurovision at all. I mean, I don't personally, but I thought we could talk about this quickly. So there's the Eurovision song excuse me, I'll start again. There's a Eurovision Song Contest in a few days. And again, I don't follow it personally, but I do follow politics and the politics of this. And, you know, it's scandalous, because there's a Swedish Palestinian singer, and he gets on stage, and his crime, look at this crime. He wears a Palestinian scarf, right? Just like a sleeve basically showing, okay? He's just wrapped it around his forearm, and it's just a tiny bit of it showing, and he gets in trouble. They rebuked him for this today. The official Eurovision Song Contest rebuked him. They say they regret that he wore this, like as if, you know, he held up something with a swastika on it or something, you know. They regret he wore this. How dare he show his heritage? How dare he display anything Palestinian? And then they say that, you know, he basically violated the non-political nature of the that he violated the non-political nature of the contest. How is it not political? They've told the Israelis you can participate, but the Russians are still banned. So the Russians don't get to participate last year or this year because of Ukraine. So they don't mind bringing that politics in there, and they don't mind telling off Palestinians for showing a scarf. But you know, they'll ban Palestinian flags and they'll allow Israelis to participate. Okay, so I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. They have actually banned Palestinian flags. That's what it says. The organizers have banned Palestinian flags. Can you believe that? So Israel is allowed to participate, not Russia, and no Palestinian flags. So what is the conclusion? You can commit genocide and you can come and wave your Nazi flag, your Nazi Israeli flag during the contests, and you can participate in the contest too. That's okay. That's okay. So that's the message that they're sending. And it's just like football, you know? The Israelis, they were trying to compete for the Euro Cup, to qualify for the Euro Cup this year. And the only reason they're not going to be in it is because they failed to qualify. But they weren't banned from qualifying or playing qualifiers. They were allowed to take part. Where's Russia? Russia's still banned to this day from both FIFA and UEFA championships. So both World Cup and Euro Cup banned. So I find this funny, you know, I really find this funny. Like let's look at Russia's behavior. Can you say Russia did anything worse than what Israel is doing? Of course not. Of course, it's not even comparable. Completely different situation and nowhere near as many casualties. None. It's incomparable in both size, scope, and nature. But nevertheless, because they're Russian, they're banned. And because Palestinians, you know, we don't want to displease the Zionists. I mean, this is just pathetic, really. This is just pathetic. Here's a message from a couple of European MEPs and MPs and what they have to say.
Dans quelques jours, l'Eurovision, l'un des plus grands événements musicaux au monde, débutera. Cependant, cette année, la participation d'Israël suscite une profonde inquiétude.
Mientras el ejército israelí comete un genocidio sobre los 2 millones de habitantes de Gaza, según las Naciones Unidas, podemos ver a las víctimas mostrando su sufrimiento en tiempo real.
Claire is excellent. I was sitting with her in court during the Assange persecution. But yeah, she's great. And you see, you got, you know, European members of parliament from all over the continent who all agree with the premise that Israel should be banned, because it's not only hypocritical, but because simply for the fact that you know, you can't allow a genocide and then normalize the person committing genocide. If you ask me, I don't give a shit whether Israel is banned or not. I really don't care. That Israel can participate. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care. But don't come here and ban Palestinian flags and then tell me you regret that someone showed a bit of a Palestinian scarf. How dare you? You know how racist and disgusting that is? You know, I regret that you have any connection with Israel. That's something you should really regret. That you enable genocide. That's something to regret. You know, or I spilt a glass of milk. I love the scale. Spilling a glass of milk and committing genocide. These are things you regret. No, but seriously, you understand the point. You don't regret that someone showed a scarf from their culture. What is that nonsense? So as far as I'm concerned, let the Israelis go on. I'm not into this like canceling nonsense. I really don't care. Someone singing on a stage is not going to affect the resistance or the path to victory. It's nothing to do with it. But don't come here and then ban Palestinians from speaking out and showing their own cultural symbols and just existing or obtaining some form of justice. And if you're going to ban people, you ban the Russians, well, why don't you ban the Israelis? You know, this is not only wrong to ban the Russians, but it's hypocritical then to not ban others who have done far worse, not even comparable, the scale. So that's it. That's my message. But the world, I'm sure it would be a better place without Israeli songs being sung at this stupid thing. They're singing some crap about, like, I think it's called October Rain. Like, it's basically going to be about, oh my God, we're such victims and blah, 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 In any case, there's just, I want to say thank you to Maria89. For the donation. Maria says, and those children will remember everything, or at least much more than one would expect. Yes, the children in Palestine. Absolutely. And, we've also got some donations over here. I'll read them to you. So this is a contribution. Thank you again to Sean, who says, gas money. Keep on doing what you're doing, Richard. Love your show. Thank you very much. Marissa says, Richie, take breaks, drink water. We will be here. I remember the old streams. I've been supporting you for 4+ years. How time flies. Well, I appreciate it. I'll make sure to do that then. I feel reassured now. So thank you, Marissa. And Malik says, thanks, Richard, for great journalism. # free Palestine. # free Julian Assange. Thank you. Absolutely. And thank you, Jennifer, as well, for the very generous donation. Thank you, Irene. Thank you to Yusik, who says, thank you, Richard, for your great service. Thank you, Richard, for your service and great journalism. And we have another one also on PayPal from Natalia, who says, support of independent journalism. You're all very kind. Thank you. And thank you, John, who just sent one in this second. Charles joined on Patreon, so I owe Charles a crab dance in a moment. But again, I just want to add a few words, about all of this, because just give me a second, please. By the way, in a few minutes, I'm going to be on on Danny's show, so please make sure that you switch over in a second. But, we need to say something first. I need to say something first to explain this, okay? Because, look, you have some Zionists. Some Zionists, they say, like, if you talk about genocide, their answer is that you're anti-Semitic. Well, no, we just don't like genocide. What the fuck is wrong with you? How did you connect disliking genocide to being anti-Semitic? How did you make this connection? Why did you make this connection? Calling out Israeli crimes is not anti-Semitism. It's just calling out Israeli crimes. The fact that you connect Israeli crimes to being Jewish shows that you are anti-Semitic. That's what it shows. When someone mentions genocide and your reply is that this is against Jews, as if like committing genocide is a Jewish trait. Fuck you. And then also they act like all Jews have to be Zionists, like there are no other Jews in the world. So of course you would only be talking about Israel if you were to mention an Israeli crime. Of course you would only be talking about Jews were you to mention an Israeli crime. I mean, what is this? What is this garbage? How do you connect those two things to each other? Don't you know that genocide? Don't you know that genocide only has meaning when you're talking about the Holocaust? When you're talking about Jewish tragedies? Yeah, this is the meaning that they're telling you. They're saying you can only invoke this word when you're talking about something bad that happened to Jews in history, but you can't ever mention it when it happens to somebody else. I find this amazing. It's like they have internalized multiple levels of Jew hatred themselves, these Zionists. They really have. And you have to always remember that they are like ISIS. They are like the Crusaders. And you really have to understand this point. When the Crusaders arrived in Jerusalem and captured the city, the first thing they did is they slaughtered everyone. They slaughtered the Muslims, they slaughtered the Jews, and they slaughtered even the Christians, right? So they said, oh, we're coming to the Holy Land to liberate it for Christians. And they murdered the actual original Christians, you know, the people who come from Palestine. And so this is the same thing that the Israelis are doing. They are a bunch of psychotic Europeans who have taken a religion from the Middle East. They have distorted it and played with it and amplified it and just made it so perfect to fit their political ideologies and political goals of colonialism, to go to another country and steal the land, right? They've made them fit together, and they came up with Zionism, right? And so they're just like the Crusaders. They're taking a religion from the Middle East, they're distorting it, and then they're going to the Middle East, killing people from the Middle East using their own religion, and then claiming that they are the real Jews. You know, only they are the real Jews. Like someone like Netanyahu, who is from Poland, or Galant, or Benny Gantz, or Ben Gurion, all of these people with Russian, Polish, Ukrainian names who are white, think they have a closer connection to Abraham and Moses than someone who is Semitic and born in Palestine, and their, you know, generations and generations, their whole lineage goes back millennia in Palestine. Like, let's assume for a second that, yeah, okay, this is the land of the Jews and it should only be for Jews. Let's assume for a second that this is valid. Who said that you are more Jewish than someone in the Middle East? Even a Muslim, even a Christian. How do you know that their ancestors are not originally Jewish? That they are not more closely related to Moses and Abraham? Of course they are, because they're from that region. You're not from this region. So how can you claim to be more Jewish than them? It's unbelievable, you know? It's unbelievable. It's the same thing as the Crusaders. Like, you know, we, the white Christians from Europe, we are Christianity. You know, our version is better. We know better, right? So it just so happens we're going to take your land, by the way, right? When we're going to take all the treasure in it and we're going to kill everyone. How convenient, you know? So the Israelis hijack Judaism like Crusaders hijack Christianity. They're both groups of delusional Europeans who want colonialism. They want to go and steal land and resources. They're colonizers. And ISIS is a product of Western imperialism just as much as any of these groups, as the Crusaders or the Israelis, because it's the CIA, you know, with British intelligence creating these hardline groups and using, you know, whipping Wahhabism into the mix. And then, you know, you have Al-Qaeda, you have ISIS, and you also have the British who are involved, not just the CIA. And then, you know, they claim like it's a product of the region, like as if it just popped up from nowhere. No, it's Western. And they have the same traits, you know. They claim that this land, the exact piece of land is theirs, that they are the pure Muslims and everybody else is not. So, you know, it's the same thing. They are no different. Crusaders, ISIS, and Zionists. They are one and the same, believe me. You know, I would add something else. You have all seen how bloodthirsty the Israelis are. You have seen what Zionism does in these last 7 months, in case you haven't seen the last 75 years. Do you think it's reasonable to then tell Palestinians you have to live next to people who have committed genocide against you, who have raped you, who have stolen your resources and your land and uprooted your olive trees and deprived you of life and liberty? You really think Palestinians, that the solution is to have them living next to each other? You know, if you want that, you should go tell the Israelis, because the Israelis are the ones that are not interested and have made sure that you cannot have any harmony. They made sure of this, right? So they don't want to live next to Palestinians. They want to live on top of Palestinians. They want to bury them and kill them and take their land. They have demonstrated this to you. It's recorded. It's not a matter of opinion. That's what they do. It's expansionism, right? It's colonialism, European colonialism. And so you're telling me that you know, you want Palestinians to have lived in camps, who have, you know, had buildings fall on top of them under Israeli and American bombs. After all of this, like, yeah, go ahead and live next to these people who have tried to eradicate you and claim they are oppressed at the same time. I mean, look how they humiliate the Palestinians. You know, they kill them, they make them live in tents and refugee camps, they bomb them, and then while they're in the tents, they go and bomb them again. You know, so you'll have a Palestinian refugee from 1948 whose children are also living in a refugee camp, and their children are also living in a refugee camp, and all of them, all three generations, are subject to attacks and racism and being stateless and being humiliated in front of the world. And I mean, the way that Palestinians are treated, you should thank your lucky stars they're not vengeful, because they would have every right in the world to destroy the world, you know, figuratively. Like, to really, if they were vengeful people, they could take it out on the planet, because the planet allowed all of this to happen. Not just now, but for 75 years. You should be thankful. You should be thankful they are not spiteful, vengeful people. You should be thankful. The Israelis have no excuse, no fucking excuse to do what they're doing. No one oppressed them in Palestine. They should thank the Palestinians for taking them in when they were refugees. Who in the world took in the Jews of Europe except the Palestinians? Who took them in but the Palestinians? Who gave them refuge and protection after World War II? That's how you treat the Palestinians? That's what you do to someone who gives you food and gives you shelter? That's what you do to them? You commit genocide against Palestinians after all they've done for you? And then they will claim it, oh, the Arabs. Why did you go and live in front of the Arabs then? If the Arabs hate Jews, why did you go and live there? This is a lie. It's a lie that Arabs have a problem with Jews. That would mean that you have no Arab Jews. Nonsense. You are Arab Christians, Jews, and Muslims. And they were all living together in this area for thousands of years. So, you know, one period they're called Arabs. Another period they're called Semites, Canaanites. Go back as far as you want. It's the same group of people. They never left this region. It's the same group of people. And they lived together in harmony until Zionism came along. There's no problem between these religions. The problem is European colonizers. They're Christian, they're Muslim, I don't care. It's colonialism that's the issue. And never forget this, because the Israelis want to frame the conversation around something completely different. Fuck that. I want to talk about October 7. I don't care about October 7. I care about the root cause. The root cause. And you find it's European imperialism and colonialism every single time. So again, I'll be switching over now, guys. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. And please share the videos. The best way to help the channel is to share the videos. You know, when you see a notification for YouTube, click on it, hit the like button, you know, comment something, help me with the algorithm. I really need it. So thanks to all of you for tuning in, and I appreciate it, guys. Yalla. I'll hop over now on Danny's show, and we'll continue there. Take care. Ma salama. Bye-bye.